Our victim, David Linzis, was a 45-year-old high-powered attorney who resided in Gilbert, Arizona. Despite his outwardly successful life, David had a reputation for engaging in extramarital affairs and neglecting his wife, Clara. Behind closed doors, their marriage was marred by tension and resentment. Clara, a successful marketing executive at the age of 42, had dreams of a loving and faithful husband, but her reality was far from it. David was known for his high-profile cases, often making headlines in local newspapers and even appearing on television talk shows as a legal expert. His sharp mind and persuasive arguments made him one of the most sought-after attorneys in the state of Arizona. However, his professional success came at a cost to his personal life. The summer of 2010 was particularly scorching in Gilbert, with temperatures reaching record highs of almost 120 degrees. As the heat wave gripped the town, tensions within the Linzis household escalated. Clara, a petite woman with fiery red hair, found solace in her work, pouring her energy into her marketing campaigns. She often sought refuge from the sweltering heat at the local Starbucks, sipping on iced lattes as she brainstormed ideas. The Linzis residence, a sprawling two-story house on Oak Street, was a symbol of their wealth and social status. Neighbors often caught glimpses of David's expensive sports car parked in the driveway, a testament to his success. However, behind the facade of luxury, a storm was brewing. David's extramarital affairs had become an open secret among the couple's circle of friends. Rumors circulated about his rendezvous with dozens of young interns from his law firm, and whispers of infidelity echoed through the halls of the local country club. Clara, a woman of grace and poise, silently endured the humiliation, hoping that one day her husband would change. And so, the stage was set for a gripping tale of love, betrayal, and murder in the sweltering summer of 2010. It was a scorching summer day in July 2010 in the affluent suburb of Gilbert, Arizona. The sun beat down mercilessly, making the asphalt sizzle and the air feel heavy. In the midst of this sweltering heat, tragedy struck the Linzis household. Clara Linzis, a 42-year-old marketing executive, had just returned home from a long day at work. As she stepped into the coolness of her air-conditioned kitchen, she was greeted by a sight that would haunt her forever. Her husband, David Linzis, lay on the floor, his body convulsing violently. Clara's heart raced as she rushed to David's side. Panic and disbelief consumed her as she frantically searched for a pulse, but it was too late. David was already gone. Tears streamed down her face as she reached for the phone and dialed 911, her voice trembling as she described the horrific scene. The sound of sirens blaring in the distance snapped Clara back to reality. The paramedics rushed into the house, their faces masked in a mix of concern and professionalism. They quickly assessed the situation, but it was clear that there was nothing they could do. David was beyond saving. News of the shocking crime spread like wildfire through the close-knit community of Gilbert. Neighbors whispered to each other, speculating about what could have led to such a gruesome end. The local newspaper, the Gilbert Gazette, ran a front-page article the next day, capturing the attention of readers across town. In the days and weeks that followed, the media frenzy surrounding the case grew. Television crews from the local news stations set up camp outside the Linzis residence, capturing every detail for their nightly broadcasts. As the investigation continued, the police interviewed friends, family, and acquaintances, trying to piece together the events leading up to David's death. Rumors swirled, painting a picture of a troubled marriage and a wife pushed to her breaking point. But amidst the speculation and gossip, the truth remained elusive. The local police quickly responded to the emergency call, rushing to the Linzis residence in Gilbert, Arizona. Detective Janet Tierkreis and Officer Rebecca Sanchez were assigned to investigate the tragic and mysterious death of David Linzis. As they arrived at the scene, the detectives were greeted by the sweltering Arizona heat, the sun beating down on the quiet suburban neighborhood. The Linzis house stood tall and imposing, its walls painted a crisp shade of white, contrasting with the vibrant green of the well-manicured lawn. With a sense of urgency, Detective Tierkreis and Officer Sanchez entered the house, their footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. As they made their way to the kitchen, they couldn't help but notice the pristine condition of the residence. It was as if every surface had been meticulously cleaned, presumably with Lysol, America's #1 cleaner, leaving no trace of the crime that had occurred. Upon reaching the kitchen, the detectives were met with a faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee. The room was spotless, the countertops gleaming under the fluorescent lights. A lone coffee mug sat on the table, still warm to the touch. Detective Tierkreis carefully picked it up, examining it for any signs of tampering. Using a pair of gloves, Officer Sanchez began to meticulously search the surrounding area, looking for any potential evidence. She carefully inspected the coffee machine, taking note of the brand and model. It was a Keurig, a popular brand known for its convenience and ease of use. A small pile of used coffee pods sat nearby, evidence of David's morning routine. The detectives continued their search, meticulously documenting every detail. They examined the cabinets, the drawers, and even the trash bin, hoping to find any clue that could shed light on the mysterious circumstances surrounding David's death. But there was nothing. No fingerprints, no signs of struggle, no indication of how the poison had been introduced into the coffee. As the investigation continued, Detective Tierkreis and Officer Sanchez knew they had their work cut out for them. They would need to delve deeper into David's personal life, uncovering any secrets or motives that could explain the tragic events of that fateful day in July. The investigation into the death of David Linzis took a dramatic turn when his wife, Clara Linzis, emerged as the primary suspect. Clara, a woman of charm and charisma, had long harbored resentment towards her husband for his infidelity and neglect. The police wasted no time in interrogating Clara, hoping to uncover the truth behind David's demise. Clara, a 42-year-old marketing executive, was known for her impeccable style and grace. She had a reputation for being a strong and independent woman, but behind closed doors, her marriage to David was far from perfect. Neighbors often heard heated arguments coming from their home, and rumors of David's extramarital affairs had circulated within their social circle. The police, led by Detective Janet Tierkreis and Officer Rebecca Sanchez, meticulously questioned Clara, delving into her motives and emotions. Clara's responses were a mix of anger and calculated calmness, revealing glimpses of a woman pushed to her breaking point. During the interrogation, Clara recounted the events leading up to David's death. She claimed that on the day in question, she had prepared her husband's morning coffee as she always did. She mentioned that David had a habit of leaving his coffee unattended while he attended to work emails in their home office. Detective Tierkreis and Officer Sanchez carefully examined the crime scene, searching for any evidence that would either support or refute Clara's claims. The house showed no signs of forced entry, and the scene was eerily clean, as if someone had meticulously wiped away any traces of the crime. The investigators collected samples from the coffee machine, the cup, and the surrounding area, hoping to find any traces of cyanide. The media frenzy surrounding the case intensified, with news outlets reporting on every update and speculation. The Linzis residence became a hub of activity, with reporters and curious onlookers gathering outside. The case captivated true crime obsessives, drawing comparisons to other real-life crime dramas that had gripped the public's attention in the past. As the investigation into Clara Linzis continued, the police were determined to uncover the truth behind David's death. They meticulously analyzed every piece of evidence, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of justice. Dr. Dolly Leutner, a close friend of Clara's and a well-known scientist who studied harmful substances, found herself under intense scrutiny as the investigation unfolded. The police, armed with evidence and suspicions, turned their attention to Dr. Leutner, seeking to uncover the truth behind her relationship with the victim, David Linzis. Dr. Leutner, a middle-aged woman with short, silver hair and glasses, had been a trusted confidant of Clara for many years. She had always been there to offer advice and support, but now her loyalty was being called into question. The investigators discovered that Dr. Leutner had been involved in a secret decades-long affair with David, a fact that shocked Clara and added another layer of complexity to the case. As the police dug deeper, they found that Dr. Leutner had access to dangerous substances through her work as a toxicologist. Cyanide, the deadly poison that claimed David's life, was one of the substances she had knowledge of and could potentially acquire. The investigators began to wonder if Dr. Lner had used her expertise and access to poison David. During her interrogation, Dr. Lner revealed a startling revelation. She disclosed that her 3 children, who were believed to have been conceived through in vitro fertilization, IVF, were actually David's biological offspring, conceived through regular sex. This revelation sent shockwaves through the investigation, as it raised questions about the extent of Dr. Leutener's involvement with David and the possible motives she may have had for harming him. The investigators delved into Dr. Leutener's personal life, searching for any clues that could shed light on her relationship with David and her potential involvement in his death. They discovered that she had been a close friend of David's for many years, and their affair had been a well-kept secret. The investigators also found evidence suggesting that Dr. Leutener had obtained the cyanide used to poison David, further strengthening the case against her. As the investigation continued, the media caught wind of the sensational story unfolding in the quiet suburb of Gilbert, Arizona. News outlets began reporting on the case, speculating on the motives and actions of both Clara and Dr. Leutener. The small town was thrust into the spotlight, with reporters flocking to the scene to cover every detail of the investigation. In the middle of their investigation, the police stumbled upon a very important clue. It was a hot day, the kind that makes you feel like you're melting, the mercury reaching 118 degrees, when they found something buried in the Arizona soil. It was a hidden stash of papers in a small vial. The papers were full of information that shed light on the complicated web of lies surrounding David's murder. The police were quick to react to this new discovery. They carefully examined the papers, which were covered in dirt and had started to crumble in the dry heat. The documents revealed a whole bunch of secrets that had been hidden away for a long time. One of the papers was a letter from David to his lawyer, discussing a secret offshore bank account. The police now had a lead to follow. They contacted the bank and requested information about any suspicious transactions that might be connected to David or his wife, Clara. Another document found was an email exchange between David and a mysterious person named X. The police were intrigued by this new lead and started digging deeper. They traced the IP address of the sender and found that it was from a computer in a coffee shop in Tucson, 120 miles away. The police immediately went to the coffee shop and asked the employees if they remembered anything unusual happening around the time of David's murder. One barista remembered a woman who seemed nervous and kept looking over her shoulder. She had ordered a cup of coffee to go and left in a hurry. The police now had a description of the woman and started searching for her. They looked through security camera footage from nearby stores and found a video of the woman getting into a car with a license plate that matched Clara's car. It seemed like Clara was involved in the murder after all. Lisa Romanoff Lindbergh, a woman of peculiar habits and the secretary of the late David Linzis, had become the focus of intense scrutiny in the ongoing investigation into his untimely demise. As the police delved deeper into the mysterious circumstances surrounding the murder, they uncovered a web of deceit and obsession that pointed directly at Lisa. Lisa, a woman in her late 30s, was known for her eccentricities who believed she was the descendant of both the Lindbergh baby and Anastasia Romanoff. She was also known for her unwavering loyalty to David. She had been his secretary for over 5 years, managing his appointments and organizing his affairs. But beneath her seemingly loyal exterior lurked a dark secret, an affair with David that had been going on for years. The police, armed with newfound evidence, interrogated Lisa with a keen eye for details. They discovered that Lisa's obsession with her own lineage had driven her to desperate measures. She believed that by eliminating Clara, David's wife, she could secure her own position in his life and fulfill her delusional fantasy of becoming the sole object of his affection. During the interrogation, Lisa's demeanor fluctuated between anger and moments of unsettling calmness. She vehemently denied any involvement in David's murder, claiming that she loved him and would never harm him. However, the evidence against her was mounting. The police uncovered a series of incriminating text messages exchanged between Lisa and David in the days leading up to his death. These messages revealed the depth of Lisa's obsession and her plans to eliminate Clara from David's life. In a shocking turn of events, the police also uncovered a secret room in Lisa's apartment filled with photographs and newspaper clippings of Clara and David. The room resembled a shrine, with candles and handwritten notes expressing Lisa's twisted love for David. In a shocking turn of events, the police identified and arrested the person responsible for the murder of David Linzis, the high-powered attorney from Gilbert, Arizona. After an extensive investigation that spanned several months, the truth finally came to light, revealing a tale of betrayal and revenge. Clara Linzis, the wife of the victim, was revealed to be the true murderer. Clara, a 42-year-old marketing executive, had endured years of infidelity and neglect from her husband. Fueled by a potent mix of anger and a desire for liberation, Clara took matters into her own hands, putting an end to her husband's life. The police, led by Detective Janet Tierkreis and Officer Rebecca Sanchez, painstakingly pieced together the puzzle that led them to Clara's doorstep. Their investigation uncovered a hidden cache of incriminating documents buried beneath the scorching Arizona soil. These documents, along with a vial of cyanide, shed light on the intricate web of deceit surrounding David's murder. The arrest of Clara came as a shock to both her and the victim's family. Throughout the investigation, Clara had maintained a facade of calculated composure, but in the face of her own actions, her composure crumbled. The victim's family, torn between grief and relief, grappled with the knowledge that justice had been served. This case captivated the local community and garnered significant media attention. News outlets such as the Gilbert Gazette and the Arizona Daily Star covered the story extensively, highlighting the details of the investigation and the shocking revelation of Clara as the murderer. As the story of David Linzis' murder comes to a close, the community of Gilbert, Arizona, is left to reflect on the dark side of human nature. This chilling tale serves as a reminder that even in the most affluent suburbs, secrets and motivations can lead to unimaginable crimes. The trial that followed the shocking murder of David Linzis was a big event in Gilbert, Arizona. In July 2010, people from all over the town came to the courthouse to witness justice being served. The courtroom was filled with emotions as the prosecutor, Farrah Lee, presented a strong case against Clara Linzis, the wife of the victim. Farrah Lee told the jury that Clara had a motive for killing her husband. She explained how Clara had endured years of infidelity and neglect, and how that had driven her to take matters into her own hands. The prosecutor also showed evidence of premeditation, explaining how Clara had obtained the poison and carefully planned the murder. Clara's defense attorney, Michael Mad Dog Stevens, fought hard to cast doubt on the evidence and Clara's state of mind. He argued that Clara had been pushed to her breaking point and that her actions were a result of the years of mistreatment she had suffered. He called witnesses who testified to Clara's good character and her struggles in the marriage. Finally, after much deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The courtroom fell silent as the foreperson stood up and pronounced Clara Linzis guilty of first-degree murder. Gasps filled the room, and Clara's family and friends wept at the news. The victim's family, although relieved that justice had been served, couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness for the loss of their loved one. Clara Linzis was sentenced to death for the murder of her husband, the judge. Taking into account the circumstances of the crime and Clara's lack of remorse, deemed the sentence appropriate. The courtroom emptied, and the news of the verdict spread throughout Gilbert. People discussed the trial over coffee at the local diner and debated whether the punishment fit the crime. In the end, the trial of Clara Linzis captivated the town of Gilbert in July 2010. It was a tragic and shocking case that left a lasting impact on the community. As the media covered the story, the town grappled with the question of whether justice had truly been served. In the aftermath of the trial, the lives of the people involved in the case took different paths. Clara, who was found guilty of murdering her husband, David Linzis, now resides on death row, awaiting her fate. She spends her days in a small, cramped cell, surrounded by gray walls and a narrow window that barely lets in any light. The monotony of prison life is only broken by occasional visits from her lawyer and the never-ending ticking of the clock on the wall. Meanwhile, the suspects, witnesses, and investigators who were involved in the case have all moved on, trying to find solace and redemption. Dr. Dolly Leutner, the toxicologist who was suspected of providing the poison used in the murder, has returned to her work at the prestigious Arizona Institute of Toxicology. She has been awarded a grant to continue her groundbreaking research on the effects of cyanide poisoning, which she hopes will help prevent similar tragedies in the future. Lisa Romanoff Lindbergh, David's former secretary and another suspect in the case, has moved to Utah, eager to leave the memories of the trial behind. She now works as a receptionist at a local law firm, trying to rebuild her life and distance herself from the events that unfolded in Gilbert. She recently self-published a memoir, detailing her eccentric belief that she is the descendant of both the Lindbergh baby and Anastasia Romanoff. As for the Linzes family, they are still trying to heal and rebuild their shattered lives. David's parents have established the David Linzes Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to raising awareness about domestic violence and supporting victims. They organize fundraising events and collaborate with local shelters to provide assistance to those in need. David Hale was a 41-year-old man who lived in Ardmore, Oklahoma, a small town known for its conservative values and tight-knit community. He owned a successful car dealership in town, Hale Auto Sales, which had been in his family for generations. He was a well-respected businessman, known for his honesty and integrity. David was also a deacon at the local Baptist church, where he was deeply involved in community events. On the outside, David seemed like the perfect family man, hardworking, kind, and committed to his wife, Anne, and their daughter, Macy. But beneath this clean-cut image, David carried a heavy secret. For years, he struggled with his sexuality, which was at odds with the traditional values of his town and his church. This inner turmoil led him to live a double life, often traveling to Oklahoma City and Dallas for anonymous sex with other men. While he was devoted to his family in many ways, David felt emotionally distant from them, especially as his marriage to Anne had grown cold and loveless. In the years before his death, he struggled to reconcile his true sexual feelings with the life he felt obligated to lead. One of those sexual relationships was with Hunter Davis, his daughter Macy's 18-year-old boyfriend. Hunter, a high school football star, had grown close to David after Macy introduced him to the family. On the surface, David acted as a mentor to Hunter, offering him guidance, helping him find work at the dealership, and even giving him financial support. But in reality, David was using this mentorship as a way to Hunter into a secret sexual relationship with him. David's double life began to catch up with him in the summer of 2021. His daughter, Macy, had just graduated from high school and was looking forward to starting classes at a local community college. She was excited about her future and was planning to marry Hunter that fall. David, meanwhile, was struggling to keep his affair hidden while managing the growing tension in his home. Macy, always close with her father, started to notice his strange behavior but was clueless to what was really going on. In the days leading up to his death, David seemed distracted, his mind clearly on more than just his business and family obligations. He spent more time than usual in private, often taking long drives late at night or shutting himself away in his home office. His double life was finally unraveling, leading to the fateful confrontation that would cost him his life. On the morning of August 14, 2021, at around 7:00 a.m., David Hale's body was found by his daughter, Macy, in the bathroom of their home. It was a Saturday, and like many small towns, Ardmore, Oklahoma was quiet. Macy had woken up early, planning to go out for breakfast at Denny's with her boyfriend Hunter. She knocked on her father's bathroom door but got no answer. When she opened it, she was met with a horrific sight. David was lying on the cold tile floor, a pool of blood surrounding him. The bathroom mirror was splattered, and the handgun that David kept for protection was lying on the floor next to his lifeless hand. Macy screamed, dropping her phone as she stood frozen in shock. After a few moments, she ran back to her room, grabbed her phone off the floor, and called 911. Macy's voice trembled as she spoke to the dispatcher, struggling to explain what had happened. Her mind raced as she replayed the events of the last few days, trying to make sense of how her father, the man she had looked up to all her life, could now be dead. The dispatcher tried to calm her down, asking her to stay on the line until help arrived. Macy remained panicked, pacing back and forth between the bathroom and the living room, trying to catch her breath. Within minutes, the first responders arrived at the Hale residence, a modest ranch-style house on the outskirts of town. The paramedics quickly confirmed what Macy already knew: her father was dead. As the reality set in, Macy collapsed onto the front porch, tears streaming down her face. Her world had been turned upside down in an instant. News of the tragedy spread quickly throughout Ardmore. In a town where gossip moved fast, especially in the age of Facebook and local news websites, word of David Hale's death shocked the entire community. Neighbors began gathering outside the Hale house, whispering and speculating about what could have happened to the man they knew as a kind and upstanding citizen. Macy was taken to the police station shortly after her father's body was found. Still in shock, she could barely process what was happening. Her mother, Ann, had been out of town visiting her sister in Tulsa and was on her way back, completely unaware of the nightmare awaiting her. By mid-morning, the small, quiet town of Ardmore was buzzing with confusion, fear, and rumors about what had led to the death of David Hale. The Ardmore Police Department arrived on the scene around 7:30 a.m. on August 14, 2021, less than 30 minutes after Macy Hale made the frantic 911 call. Lead investigator Detective Greg Marshall, a seasoned officer with over 15 years on the force, was known for his methodical approach to crime scenes. The bathroom where David Hale's body was found was small but recently renovated, with white walls and white tile flooring. It was a mess. Blood had pooled around David's head, and splatters covered the sink, mirror, and walls. The handgun, a Smith & Wesson .38, lay on the floor near David's right hand. It was clear that David had been shot at close range. The bullet had entered his chest, leaving no chance for survival. The detectives took in the details. The rest of the house was undisturbed. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, and nothing appeared to be stolen. It seemed unlikely that this was a robbery gone wrong, especially in a town like Ardmore, where violent crime was rare. Detective Marshall knelt next to the body, noting the position of the gun and David's hand. There was no indication of a struggle in the bathroom, but something about the scene felt off to him. He had another officer to dust for fingerprints on the gun and check for any other trace evidence in the room. He also requested a thorough examination of David's phone, which was sitting on the counter next to the sink. Marshall knew that in today's world, people's phones often held secrets, and he suspected David's would be no different. As the investigation continued, the police used luminol, a chemical agent, to check for any blood traces that might have been cleaned up elsewhere in the house. The only blood present was in the bathrooms, suggesting that David had been killed there and not moved after his death. Crime scene photographers documented every angle, making sure nothing was missed. By noon, the detectives had gathered all the evidence they could from the scene. The body was taken to the local coroner for a full autopsy, which would later confirm that David had died from a single gunshot wound to the chest. As Marshall wrapped up their initial investigation, it was clear they were dealing with more than just a simple accident or home invasion. Something much more personal had happened here. Macy Hale, David's 18-year-old daughter, was the first person the police questioned. Still in shock after finding her father's body, she was taken to the Ardmore Police Department later that morning. Detective Greg Marshall knew this would be a delicate interrogation. Macy was emotional, her face pale, and her hands trembling as she sat in the small, windowless interview room. Macy was fresh out of high school with plans to start community college in the fall. She was known around town for her outgoing personality and dedication to soccer, often seen at the local field in her Adidas gear. Her relationship with her father had always seemed strong, though in recent weeks, according to friends, Macy had been quieter and more withdrawn. Detective Marshall wanted to understand why. He started the interview gently, asking Macy about her relationship with her father. Macy described her dad as a hardworking man, always at the car dealership, but still making time for Sunday dinners in church. Her voice wavered as she recalled how their relationship had recently changed. Just days before the murder, Macy had discovered something shocking that shattered her world. She had found sexually explicit messages on her boyfriend Hunter's phone, revealing an affair between Hunter and her father. Macy's discovery had left her devastated, and the detectives could see the raw emotion on her face as she talked. She felt betrayed by both men and didn't know how to handle the situation. "I just wanted things to go back to normal," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "I didn't want to believe what I saw." Marshall listened carefully. The motive for Macy to be involved in her father's death was clear: anger, betrayal, and heartbreak. However, as the interrogation continued, Macy insisted that despite her rage, she would never hurt her father. Her alibi was solid, too. On the night of the murder, she had spent most of the evening with Hunter, who she still loved despite his affair with her father, and several friends had seen them together at a local ice cream shop, Brahms, a popular spot in Ardmore. Surveillance footage from the store confirmed her presence there, giving her an airtight alibi for the time of the crime. Though Macy's emotional state and recent discovery pointed to her as a potential suspect, the detectives ultimately found no physical evidence linking her to the murder. Marshall, however, couldn't shake the feeling that this family's secrets ran much deeper than they appeared. Next on the police's list of suspects was Ann Hale, David's 39-year-old wife. Ann had been married to David for 20 years and was well known in Ardmore for her deep involvement in the church and the local community. As a stay-at-home mom, she spent much of her time organizing church events, leading Bible study groups, and volunteering at the local food pantry. Outwardly, Ann appeared to have the perfect life: a loving husband, a bright daughter, and a strong reputation in their conservative town. However, as the detectives dug deeper, they uncovered cracks in her seemingly perfect marriage. Friends and neighbors described the relationship between Ann and David as strained. Over the past few years, the two had grown distant, with David spending more time at his car dealership and Ann pouring herself into church activities. It was no secret that their loveless marriage lacked the intimacy it once had. Detective Greg Marshall brought Ann in for questioning 2 days after the murder. When she walked into the police station, she looked tired and grief-stricken, her eyes red from crying. Dressed in a simple floral dress, Ann clutched a tissue in her hand as she sat down across from the investigators. At first, Ann seemed cooperative, answering questions about her husband's routine in their marriage. She admitted that things hadn't been the same between them for a long time. "We were more like roommates than husband and wife," she said, her voice breaking. "I can't remember the last time he touched me." But when the detectives brought up the affair between David and Hunter, Ann's demeanor changed. She seemed shocked at the news, almost as if she couldn't believe it. As the interrogation continued, the detectives pressed her about her whereabouts the night of the murder. Ann claimed she had been out of town visiting her sister in Tulsa. It was on her way back, completely unaware of the nightmare awaiting her. Her story seemed plausible, but the police couldn't ignore the fact that Ann had a clear motive. The betrayal of both her husband and her daughter's boyfriend would be enough to push anyone over the edge. Ann's emotions were a mix of grief and anger during the interrogation. She maintained her innocence, but didn't deny that the revelation of the affair had deeply affected her. Still, like her daughter, Ann had no physical evidence linking her to the murder, and the detectives knew they needed more to definitively rule her out or confirm her involvement. On the morning of August 23, 2021, just 2 days after David Hale's murder, Ardmore detectives received a crucial break in the case. It was a humid, overcast day with temperatures in the low 90s, and the conservative town was still buzzing with spicy gossip about the crime. At around 10 a.m., Detective Greg Marshall got a call from the forensics lab. The teen had found a key piece of evidence that had been overlooked during the initial search of the Hale home. The gun used to kill David had traces of fingerprints on it, but they didn't belong to Ann or Macy. The detectives quickly returned to the Hale residence to re-examine the crime scene. The house had already been searched extensively, but this new development prompted another, more thorough inspection as they started retracing their steps through the house. The bathroom where David was found was still cordoned off, with unclean bloodstains still marking the spot where his body had been discovered. The gun, a Smith & Wesson revolver, had been carefully bagged as evidence, but now the forensic report gave them a new direction. The fingerprints on the gun matched Hunter Davis, Macy's boyfriend, who had been close to the family in many different ways for the past 2 years. This revelation raised immediate questions. Why were Hunter's prints on the gun? And what was his role in the murder? Detective Marshall recalled that during his brief initial interview, Hunter had seemed nervous but not overly suspicious. He had mentioned being with Macy at Braun's ice cream shop that evening, where several friends had confirmed his alibi. However, the prints on the gun painted a different picture, one that placed Hunter at the crime scene. The detectives knew they had to proceed carefully. They contacted Hunter and asked him to come in for a follow-up interview. Meanwhile, they began piecing together his connection to the Hale family. David had taken Hunter under his wing, offering him a job at the dealership and financial support in exchange for illicit sex. But the discovery of the affair had turned everything upside down. The new evidence gave the detectives more questions than answers, but it was clear that Hunter's involvement was deeper than they had initially thought. As the investigation progressed, the team felt they were getting closer to uncovering the truth. For the first time since the murder, they had a tangible lead that could break the case wide open. Hunter Davis, Macy Hale's 18-year-old boyfriend, quickly became the focus of the investigation after the discovery of his fingerprints on the gun that killed David Hale. Hunter, a well-known football star at Ardmore High School, had charmed most of the town with his athletic abilities and friendly demeanor. But behind that image was a troubled young man who had grown up in a difficult home environment. His mother struggled with drug addiction, and his father had long battled alcoholism. David Hale had stepped in as a parental figure, offering Hunter a summer job at his car dealership and even giving him a place to stay when things got rough at home. When Hunter arrived at the Ardmore Police Department for his second interview, the tension in the room was palpable. Detective Greg Marshall was ready to confront him with the new evidence. Hunter looked uneasy as he sat down, his hands fidgeting on the table. Wearing a faded Sooners t-shirt and jeans, he no longer carried the confident swagger he was known for on the football field. The detectives began by asking Hunter to walk them through the night of the murder again. He repeated his story. He had been with Macy at Brahms, grabbing burgers and shakes, but when confronted with the fingerprint evidence, his face went pale. He stammered, trying to explain how his prints could have ended up on the gun, and swore he didn't kill him. The detectives pressed him further, asking about his sexual relationship with David. Hunter hesitated before admitting that David had been more than just a mentor. He was his lover. Their relationship had turned into something so intense and passionate Hunter didn't know how to handle. He felt trapped, loyal to Macy, but manipulated by David, who had both helped him financially and used him for sex. "I didn't want any of this," Hunter said, his voice cracking. As the interrogation continued, Hunter's emotional state shifted from defensive to desperate. He denied any involvement in David's death, but seemed genuinely conflicted. He insisted that he loved Macy and wanted nothing to do with David anymore, but the detectives weren't convinced. His prints on the gun and his history with David were enough to keep him under suspicion. Though Hunter's responses were emotional and at times erratic, the detectives knew they needed more concrete evidence before they could determine his true role in David's murder. For now, Hunter remained one of the prime suspects, his relationship with the victim casting a long shadow over the investigation. On August 27, 2021, just before dawn, the Ardmore Police Department at last pieced together the tragic truth. After weeks of investigation and numerous interviews, they finally identified the murderer, Macy Hale, David's 18-year-old daughter. Macy had been the last person anyone expected to commit such a crime. To the outside world, she was a bright, driven young woman with a passion for soccer and plans for college. But beneath her calm exterior, she had been harboring an overwhelming storm of anger and betrayal. The investigation turned in Macy's direction when her mother, Ann Hale, provided police with a shocking detail. Macy had discovered sexually explicit messages between her father and her boyfriend, Hunter Davis, just days before the murder. This revelation gave Macy both the motive and the means to kill her father. The police immediately re-examined Macy's alibi. She had claimed she was at Brahms, a local fast food chain, with Hunter at the time of the murder. But surveillance footage from that night told a different story. The timestamp didn't match up with the timeline Macy had given during her initial interview. That, combined with forensic evidence linking her to the scene, sealed her fate. The night of August 27, police arrived at the Hale family home, where Macy was staying with her mother. The quiet Ardmore neighborhood, known for its conservative values, was suddenly buzzing with the sight of flashing lights and officers surrounding the house. Detective Greg Marshall, who had been leading the investigation, knocked on the door. Anne answered, visibly shaken, but Macy stood behind her, her face expressionless. "Macy Hale, you are under arrest for the murder of David Hale," Marshall said calmly as he read her rights. Macy showed no visible shock. Instead, she remained eerily calm, as if she had already accepted her fate. She complied with the arrest without resistance. As Macy was handcuffed and led to the police cruiser, Ann Hale collapsed onto the front porch, sobbing uncontrollably so much she even peed herself. The reality that her own daughter had killed her husband was too much to bear. Neighbors peeked out from behind their curtains, whispering in disbelief at what had happened in their small, close-knit community. For the Hale family, life would never be the same again. The arrest brought some answers, but it left a trail of devastation in its wake. Macy Hale's trial began on August 31, 2022, in Ardmore, Oklahoma. The courtroom was packed with community members, reporters from local outlets like the Ardmore Daily, and members of the Hale family. The trial was a focal point of local news, given the shockwaves the murder had sent through this small, tight-knit town. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Michael Granger, argued that Macy Hale had acted out of anger and betrayal. Granger, known for his meticulous approach, presented evidence showing that Macy had discovered inappropriate messages between her father, David Hale, and her boyfriend, Hunter Davis. The prosecution claimed that this discovery had pushed Macy to murder her father in a fit of rage. The key evidence included the murder weapon, David's handgun, and Macy's fingerprints on it. Granger painted a picture of a young woman overwhelmed by jealousy and heartbreak, unable to control her emotions. Macy's defense attorney, Lula Ray McDonald, a 72-year-old veteran lawyer with a reputation for defending difficult cases, argued that Macy had acted in a moment of extreme emotional distress. McDonald pointed out that Macy had no prior criminal record and had been a loving daughter before discovering the affair. She claimed that Macy's actions were the result of a severe emotional breakdown rather than premeditated murder. McDonald asked the jury to consider Macy's age and mental state when making their decision. Throughout the trial, Macy's mother, Ann Hale, sat in the courtroom, her face a mask of grief and confusion. The emotional strain was visible on her face, and she often wiped tears from her eyes. Her reaction was one of devastation, reflecting the loss of both her husband and the relationship with her daughter. Macy herself appeared somber, rarely making eye contact with the audience or her mother. On September 10, 2022, the jury returned a verdict of guilty of second-degree murder. The verdict was met with mixed reactions from the community. Some felt justice had been served, while others were saddened by the tragic outcome. The judge sentenced Macy to 25 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 15 years. For the Hale family, the trial marked the end of a harrowing chapter. Macy's conviction brought a sense of closure, but it also left deep wounds in the family and the community. The tragic events had forever changed the lives of everyone involved. After Macy Hale's trial, the impact on those involved was profound. Ardmore, Oklahoma, a town known for its close-knit community and traditional values, had been shaken by the murder and the subsequent legal proceedings. Macy Hale, now serving a 25-year sentence at the Mabel Bassett Correctional Center in McLeod, Oklahoma, faced a life drastically different from the one she had planned. Her time in prison was marked by isolation and regret. The once bright future she had envisioned, including her plans for college and a career, had been replaced by a harsh reality. Macy's story was widely covered in local media, including the Ardmore Daily and news stations like KXI-TV. The media coverage, while providing updates on her case, also served as a constant reminder of the tragic events and the lives changed forever. Ann Hale, David's widow, struggled to find normalcy in her life. She had to deal with the loss of her husband and the betrayal of her daughter. Ann, known for her involvement in local church activities and charity events, found solace in her faith. She continued to lead Bible study groups at the church, but did so with a heavy heart. The community rallied around her, offering support and condolences. Despite the support, Ann found it difficult to move past the betrayal and the fractured family relationships. Hunter Davis, Macy's former boyfriend, also faced significant challenges. After the murder, Hunter left Ardmore and went to live with relatives in a different state. His reputation as a high school football star was tarnished by his involvement in the scandal. Hunter attempted to rebuild his life away from the media spotlight, focusing on finding a job and starting over. However, the emotional scars from the affair and the murder remained with him, affecting his relationships and self-esteem. In summary, the lives of Macy Hale, Ann Hale, and Hunter Davis were forever altered by the murder. The community of Ardmore continued to deal with the emotional aftermath, trying to find healing in the wake of such a profound tragedy. Cody McAllister was a 29-year-old software developer working at Cisco in Santa Rosa, California. He was known for his dry wit, his love of classic cars, and his attention to detail. His friends described him as both a bit of a perfectionist and someone with a warm, caring side. He was proud of his career at Cisco, and with Silicon Valley booming in 2019, Cody's future looked bright. He was the oldest of two siblings, with a younger sister named Rachel. The two had always had a complicated relationship, with Rachel's rebellious nature and twin drug and alcohol addictions clashing against Cody's sober, structured life. Despite their differences, Cody had always tried to support his sister, especially when their parents passed away a few years earlier. Cody had always wanted to find the perfect partner, and in early 2019, he finally found her in Lily, a freelance fashion designer. Their relationship was intense and moved fast. Within months, they were married. Friends and family were surprised at how quickly everything happened. Cody was usually more careful, but he believed he had found the one. Lily was calm, stylish, and creative, a stark contrast to Cody's tech-focused world where a clean hoodie was the height of fashion. The two seemed like a perfect match on the outside, but there were signs of trouble that Cody's close friends noticed. He seemed more anxious in the days leading up to his death, though no one could put their finger on why. In the days before he died, Cody was still going about his usual routine. He worked late on some big projects for Cisco and had been chatting excitedly with friends about an upcoming trip he was planning for his first wedding anniversary with Lily. They were looking at places like Napa Valley or maybe a quiet weekend in Carmel by the sea. Cody had also been thinking about the future, possibly starting a family, buying a bigger house, and settling down. But there were also private struggles that Cody was dealing with. He had always had trust issues in relationships, and there were rumors that his marriage wasn't as perfect as it seemed. Still, Cody seemed hopeful that things would improve and that his new life with Lily was the fresh start he had been waiting for. It was the morning of November 18, 2019, when Cody McAllister's body was discovered. At around 7:30 a.m., Lily McAllister, Cody's wife, called 911 saying she had found her husband dead in their condo. The couple lived in a modern, upscale unit in a trendy part of San Jose, not far from Santana Row, an area known for its high-end shops and restaurants. Lily had woken up early and realized Cody wasn't in bed. She told police that after searching the apartment, she found him in the laundry room. When Lily found Cody, he was lying on the floor in a pool of blood. His body had multiple stab wounds, with the fatal blow being to his chest. His arms were limp at his sides and cut up, and the laundry room was in disarray, with clothes scattered around, signaling a violent struggle had taken place. The washer and dryer, both high-end models, were splattered with blood and smelled like old meat rather than clean clothes. Lily was described as calm when she spoke to the 911 operator, though she sounded shaky at times, clearly in shock from what she had found. The first responders arrived within minutes of the call. Officer Mark Tran was the first on the scene, followed closely by his partner, Officer Emily Reyes. They quickly secured the area and began checking for signs of life. Unfortunately, Cody was already cold to the touch. Lily was taken outside and questioned briefly by Officer Reyes, who noted that while Lily appeared upset, she wasn't crying and seemed distant. The officers then called for backup, and the crime scene investigation team arrived shortly after. Neighbors later told reporters that they hadn't heard anything unusual that morning. The walls in the condo building were thick, and it wasn't uncommon for city noise to drown out the sounds from nearby apartments. The couple was relatively new to the building, so no one knew them well, but most described Cody as polite and quiet. They hadn't seen much of Lily, but one neighbor, an older woman who lived across the hall, said she had seen her at the grocery store just the day before. By the time detectives arrived, the building was cordoned off with yellow police tape, and the investigation was in full swing. Cody's body was taken to the coroner's office, and Lily was brought in for questioning. No one could have guessed at the secrets that were about to come to light. The San Jose Police Department arrived swiftly after Lily McAllister's 911 call on the morning of November 18, 2019. Detectives James O'Brien and Lisa Chang, both veterans with the department, were assigned to the case. O'Brien was known for his methodical approach and no-nonsense attitude, while Chang had a reputation for being sharp and detail-oriented. Together, they walked into the upscale condo, ready to piece together what had happened to Cody McAllister. The crime scene was gruesome. The laundry room was small, with Cody's body lying near the door, face up, surrounded by a large pool of blood. Clothes were scattered everywhere. Socks, shirts, and towels were tossed haphazardly on the floor, some of them soaked in blood. It was clear there had been a struggle. A bloody steak knife, likely the murder weapon, was found a few feet away from Cody's body. It had a black ergonomic handle, common in many households, but now stained with clotted blood. The detectives noted the washer and dryer, both covered in spatter, and a few bloody handprints on the doorframe, indicating Cody had likely tried to defend himself. Detective Chang immediately began cataloging evidence. She directed the forensic team to take samples of the blood, check for fingerprints, and look for any signs of forced entry. The laundry room wasn't particularly large, so it didn't take long for the investigators to collect evidence. They used special blue lights to search for additional traces of blood in other parts of the house, but it seemed the attack had been confined to the laundry room. Outside, officers canvassed the neighborhood, asking residents if they had heard or seen anything suspicious, but no significant leads emerged. O'Brien focused on the timeline. The couple had been married for less than a year, and according to Lily, everything had seemed fine. However, the signs of a violent argument were impossible to ignore. There were no signs of a break-in, which suggested that Cody had possibly known his attacker. As they pieced together the evidence, the detectives began to consider the possibility of a domestic dispute gone horribly wrong. The medical examiner later confirmed that Cody had been stabbed 3 times, with the fatal wound being a deep cut to his chest, severing his aorta. The coroner's report indicated that Cody likely died within minutes of the attack. Meanwhile, the detectives continued to search the rest of the condo for more clues, but nothing else seemed out of place. The scene, while chaotic, appeared personal. This definitely wasn't a random attack. The first suspect police turned to was Cody's wife, Lily McAllister, who had made the 911 call reporting the murder. At 32, Lily worked as a freelance fashion designer and had built a modest reputation in the local creative scene for her bold and unique designs. Her quiet, enigmatic personality drew people in, but many who knew her said she kept much of her personal life private. She had met Cody just over a year before, and their relationship had moved quickly to marriage, surprising some of their friends. During her initial interrogation on November 18, 2019, Lily appeared calm but visibly shaken. She told detectives that she had found Cody's body after returning from a quick morning walk. She claimed their marriage had been mostly happy, though she admitted they had their share of arguments, especially recently. As Detective O'Brien questioned her, Lily became more emotional, but her story remained consistent. She repeatedly stated that she had no idea who could have done this to Cody. The detectives, however, couldn't ignore some red flags. For one, there were no signs of forced entry into the condo, which meant the killer was likely someone Cody knew. Lily also had some bruises on her arms and a small cut on her hand. When asked about them, she said they were from an unrelated accident the day before, but the explanation seemed vague. O'Brien, who had a naturally suspicious personality, found her demeanor odd, especially given the violent nature of the crime. As the questioning continued, the tension in the room grew. The detectives mentioned rumors about an affair between Lily and Rachel, Cody's younger sister. After a moment of hesitation, Lily admitted to the sexual relationship. She explained that the affair had started before her marriage to Cody and had continued even after they weighed. In fact, she admitted she had sex with Rachel the afternoon before Cody's death. This revelation added layers of complexity to the situation, suggesting deep emotional connections intertwined with the turmoil of the love triangle. Lily described her feelings for both Cody and Rachel, emphasizing the passion and intense sexual fireworks she shared with Rachel, which contrasted with the stability and calm Cody provided. The detectives noted the significant implications of this admission, recognizing that Lily's secret sexual relationship could have played a critical role in the confrontation that led to Cody's death. Further complicating matters was the lack of background information on Lily. Police struggled to find any records of her existence before 2015. She had told Cody and his friends that she was from Calgary, Canada, but there were no official documents to support this claim. This led detectives to question whether she might be hiding something from her past, and whether that could have played a role in the crime. Despite Lily's cooperation, the police couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her story. They pressed her on her relationship with Cody, asking about any recent arguments or tensions between them. Lily admitted they had been arguing about finances and other personal issues, but she denied any involvement in Cody's death. Still, the investigation was just beginning, and while Lily wasn't immediately arrested, she remained a person of interest. Detectives would continue to dig deeper into Lily's past and their relationship, searching for anything that might shed light on the violent act that took Cody's life. The second person the police questioned was Rachel McAllister, Cody's younger sister. Rachel, 26, was a bartender at a trendy downtown San Jose bar called the Fountain Tap. She was also an aspiring singer, known for performing Taylor Swift songs at local open mic nights. With a rebellious personality and a love for the Bay Area's nightlife scene, Rachel was close to Cody but had a complicated relationship with him. Her fiery temper and history of drug and alcohol use made her a suspect almost immediately. Rachel had also been involved in a secret relationship with Lily before Cody had ever met her, a fact that only came to light during the investigation. She had continued her affair with Lily even after Cody and Lily got married, creating a tangled web of sex and deceit. The sexual relationship between the two women had been passionate but full of tension, and detectives believed this could be a possible motive for Rachel to harm her brother. If Cody found out about the affair, it could have created significant conflict. Rachel was brought in for questioning on the afternoon of November 19, 2019, less than 10 days before Thanksgiving. From the moment she sat down, it was clear she wasn't handling the interrogation well. Her frustration showed as she angrily denied any involvement in her brother's death. She told Detective O'Brien that she loved Cody despite their differences and insisted she would never hurt him. However, her body language told a different story. She shifted nervously in her seat, avoiding eye contact, and became defensive when asked about her ongoing affair with Lily. The detectives pressed Rachel on her whereabouts the night of the murder. She claimed she was working late at the fountain tap and then went home to do some pot, but she had no solid alibi to back her up. O'Brien also questioned her about Duke Coleman Kang, her ex-boyfriend with a violent past, who had been seen near Cody's condo around the time of the murder. Rachel admitted she hadn't spoken to Duke in months, but became noticeably tense when his name was mentioned. As police continued to dig into Rachel's personal life, they uncovered her struggles with substance abuse and her financial troubles, which raised more suspicion. Detectives theorized that Rachel's jealousy of Cody's success, combined with the stress of her affair with Lily, could have driven her to a breaking point. While there was no physical evidence directly linking Rachel to the crime, her tumultuous relationship with both Cody and Lily made her a prime suspect in the investigation. The third person police investigated was David Duke Coleman Kang, a 42-year-old felon with a long history of violent crime. Duke had been in and out of prison for various offenses, including drug dealing and assault. He was well known to law enforcement in San Jose, especially around the rougher areas like East Side, where criminal activity was more frequent. Duke's rough reputation and ties to Rachel McAllister immediately put him on the police's radar after Cody's murder. Duke had been spotted near Cody's upscale condo the night of the murder. A neighbor reported seeing him standing near the building's parking lot around 10:30 p.m., smoking a blunt. This sighting raised alarm bells for the investigators, as Duke was known to have had a volatile relationship with Rachel in the past. Duke and Rachel had broken up months before, but their relationship had been filled with arguments, often fueled by drugs and alcohol. Police wondered if Duke, driven by jealousy or anger, could have been looking for Rachel and ended up at Cody's place instead. On November 21, 2019, Duke was picked up by police for questioning. He was calm, almost indifferent, as Detective O'Brien and his partner, Detective Chang, brought him into the station. Dressed in a worn leather jacket and jeans, Duke appeared unaffected by the seriousness of the situation. When asked about his presence near Cody's building the night of the murder, Duke claimed he was in the area to sexually menace a guy about unpaid drug payments, which he said never happened. He insisted he had nothing to do with Cody's death and claimed he barely knew Cody at all. Duke's criminal record, however, made the detectives suspicious. His involvement in drug-related activities and his connection to Rachel created a possible motive. Could Duke have been looking to settle a score or intimidate someone? And things went horribly wrong. Police pressed him hard on whether his presence was related to Rachel or if there had been a confrontation that led to Cody's death. Duke denied it all, maintaining that he hadn't even gone inside the building that night. Despite Duke's criminal past, police had no solid evidence tying him to the crime. His alibi, though flimsy, wasn't easy to disprove. There were no signs that Duke had entered the condo or been involved in the violent altercation that led to Cody's death. While Duke remained a person of interest due to his connection with Rachel and his proximity to the scene, police knew they needed more concrete evidence to pursue him further. On November 24, 2019, nearly a week after Cody McAllister's murder, the San Jose Police Department received a critical break in the case. The weather that Sunday was chilly, with light rain falling across the city, creating a somber mood around the investigation. Detectives O'Brien and Richards were reviewing evidence at the station when a forensic technician approached them with something unusual. While combing through Lily McAllister's MacBook, the tech had uncovered several hidden files containing medical documents, including one that revealed a secret Cody had possibly just discovered before his death. Lily McAllister was born a man and had undergone gender transition surgery years earlier in Canada. The documents, dating back to 2015, showed that Lily had once been a man known as Lyle Deacon. This revelation was shocking not only because of the secret itself, but also because Lily had kept this part of her past completely hidden from Cody, who likely had no idea when they married. As police dug deeper, they also uncovered another bombshell. Before her transition, Lily, as Lyle, had actually been married to Cody's sister, Rachel McAllister, while living in Calgary. This tangled web of relationships immediately added a new layer of complexity to the case. Investigators pieced together a possible scenario. Cody had been browsing the laptop when he stumbled upon these documents. Already dealing with tension in his marriage, this discovery likely pushed him over the edge. leading to a violent confrontation with Lily on the night of his murder. With this new evidence, police interviewed Lily again, this time focusing on her past. When confronted with the documents, Lily admitted that Cody had discovered her secret that evening, leading to a heated argument. But according to Lily, while Cody was furious and felt utterly betrayed, not only because she had kept her transition hidden, but also because of her previous marriage to his sister, the argument did not turn violent. Lily claimed she had tried to calm Cody down, but the argument had quickly escalated until Cody left the apartment to calm down. The discovery of this new information was a massive turning point in the investigation. Detectives now believe that Cody's murder was directly tied to his discovery of Lily's past and the emotional turmoil it caused. The police re-examined the crime scene with this new understanding, hoping to find more evidence to support their theory. They also began speaking to Rachel McAllister again, to clarify her knowledge of Lily's history and how much she had told her brother. This new evidence gave police a clearer motive and pushed Lily to the top of their list of suspects. On the evening of November 26, 2019, after days of investigation, the San Jose Police Department officially identified Lily McAllister as Cody McAllister's killer. Following the discovery of hidden medical documents revealing Lily's past as a transgender woman and her former marriage to Cody's sister, Rachel, police concluded that Cody had discovered these secrets shortly before his murder. This realization had led to a violent argument in a couple's upscale condo, culminating in Cody's stabbing death. Lily McAllister, 32, had always been an enigmatic figure in the local creative scene. Known for her unique fashion designs and soft-spoken demeanor, she had lived a quiet, seemingly private life since arriving in California a few years earlier. But her secret past as Lyle Deacon, a man who transitioned in Canada, had remained hidden, even from Cody, her husband of only a few months. When Cody uncovered this information, his sense of betrayal and rage likely led to the violent altercation that ended his life. Police believe that after Cody confronted Lily, the argument quickly spiraled out of control. In a desperate attempt to protect herself from Cody's aggression, Lily had grabbed a kitchen knife during the struggle and stabbed him in the chest. While Lily would later claim she acted in self-defense, detectives found the situation far more complex, given the intense emotional layers of the relationship and the secrets that had just come to light. On November 27, 2019, police arrived at Lily's condo to arrest her. It was a quiet afternoon, and Lily was at home, still reeling from the events of the past few days. When officers knocked on her door, she didn't seem surprised. According to police reports, Lily was calm as they informed her of the charges, stating that she had expected this outcome. Her demeanor remained controlled as they handcuffed her and led her to the patrol car. Meanwhile, Cody's family, especially his parents and sister Rachel, were devastated by the arrest. Rachel's marriage and subsequent sexual relationship with Lily, both before and after her transition, added another layer of heartbreak to an already tragic situation. The family had struggled to come to terms with the tangled web of secrets and betrayals that had led to Cody's death. Still, the arrest brought some closure to their grief, knowing that justice might be served. With Lily in custody, police had their suspect, and the focus turned to the upcoming trial. The case had quickly become quietly talked about in social media, with headlines speculating about Lily's past and the shocking circumstances surrounding Cody's murder. The trial of Lily McAllister for the murder of her husband Cody began in early February 2020. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Mark Harding, a 45-year-old with a no-nonsense reputation, argued that Lily's actions were deliberate. Harding highlighted the evidence found on Cody's laptop and suggested that the discovery of Lily's transgender identity and her prior relationship with Cody's sister, Rachel, was the final trigger for the fatal confrontation. He painted a picture of premeditation, claiming Lily had gone to great lengths to hide her past, which exploded in violence when Cody learned the truth. On the defense side, attorney Sarah Jane Lobison, 39, took the lead. Known for her empathetic yet sharp style, Lobison claimed that Lily had acted in self-defense. She explained that Cody had become enraged after discovering Lily's documents and began a physical altercation that left Lily no choice but to protect herself. Lobison painted a sympathetic image of Lily, describing her difficult life as a transgender woman and the fear she lived with, particularly from rejection by people close to her. She urged the jury to consider Lily's mental state during the argument. Throughout the trial, Cody's family attended every session. His parents sat in the courtroom bailey, devastated by the loss of their son, Rachel McAllister, caught in the middle of the tangled relationships, seen torn, quietly supporting her family but struggling with her complicated feelings about Lily. The emotional weight of the case was evident in their faces as both sides made their arguments. After 3 weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for 2 days. In the end, Lily was convicted of second-degree murder. The judge sentenced her to 20 years in prison, a decision that some of Cody's family felt was too lenient, given the tragic loss of his life. The defense team had hoped for a lesser charge of manslaughter, but the jury sided with the prosecution's view that Lily's actions, while not premeditated, were far more than just self-defense. The trial left a deep emotional scar on both Cody's family and those in the local community who had followed the case closely through media outlets like the San Jose Mercury News. In the end, justice was served, but the pain of Cody's death lingered. After Lily McAllister's trial in February 2020, the lives of those involved changed significantly. Lily was sentenced to 20 years in prison for the murder of her husband, Cody McAllister. She was sent to Valley State Prison in Chowchilla, California, where she faced significant challenges as a transgender woman in a male prison environment. While some inmates were supportive, others were not, and she had to navigate a complex social landscape. In prison, she found support from some inmates and began participating in educational programs. She focused on bettering herself through classes in art and writing, hoping to share her story one day. However, she also faced discrimination from others, making her time difficult. Rachel McAllister, Cody's younger sister, struggled with the aftermath of the trial. She had been deeply affected by her brother's death and her relationship with Lily. As a local bartender in San Jose, Rachel continued to pursue her dream of becoming a singer. She often performed at small venues around the city, trying to channel her grief into her music. In early 2020, she began therapy to help process her emotions, working through her complicated feelings of loss and betrayal. Rachel also spoke publicly about her experiences on her TikTok channel, sharing her story to raise awareness about domestic violence and mental health. Duke Coleman Kang, Lily's ex-boyfriend, who had initially been a suspect in Cody's murder, faced his own troubles. With a history of violent crime and drug use, Duke continued to struggle with addiction after the trial. Reports indicated that he was arrested again in 2020 for drug possession in San Jose. He was sentenced to rehabilitation, where he attempted to turn his life around by becoming a youth pastor in Nashville. Duke's past haunted him, but he aimed to break the cycle of his previous choices. As time passed, Cody's family remained dedicated to honoring his memory. They established a charity focusing on mental health support, hoping to help others affected by violence. Through their efforts, they found some solace and a way to keep Cody's spirit alive. Charlie Mabry was 42 years old. He lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, with his wife, Lisa Ann. Charlie worked as a bank manager at First Union National Bank. He was known for being very organized and responsible. Charlie grew up in Charlotte, where he attended East Mecklenburg High School. Later, he went to the University of North Carolina at Charlotte and got a degree in finance. Charlie was a quiet and thoughtful person. He loved to read books, especially mysteries, and enjoyed watching movies. Some of his favorites were old detective films. He also liked to play chess and often spent his weekends at the local chess club. His friends described him as kind and dependable. He was always there when someone needed help. Charlie was deeply in love with his wife, Lisa Ann. They had been married for 10 years. Lisa Ann was a real estate agent. She was very outgoing and loved to throw big parties. They were childless but very close to their families. Charlie's younger brother, Jock, was important to him. Jock worked as Charlie's assistant and helped him manage his busy schedule. In the days before his death, Charlie was very stressed. He had found out that Lisa Ann was having sex with several other men. This news broke his heart. He was so upset that he started eating a lot and drinking too much alcohol. He gained a lot of weight and became an alcoholic. His friends noticed that he was not himself anymore. They worried about him, but he didn't talk much about his problems. Charlie had been thinking about divorcing Lisa Ann. He knew it would be difficult, but he didn't see any other way to find peace. Despite everything, he still went to work every day and did his job well. He hoped that things would get better, but he was very sad and felt trapped in his situation. A few days before his death, Charlie spent a lot of time in his home office. He was looking through old photo albums and thinking about happier times. He also watched the news about the upcoming NCAA basketball tournament, which he always enjoyed. His friends and family didn't know how bad things had gotten for him. They were shocked when they heard the news of his death. On the morning of March 15, 2001, it was a cloudy day in Charlotte, North Carolina. At 8:30 a.m., Jock Mabry arrived at his brother Charlie's house. Jock was there to help Charlie with some work, as he often did. As he walked up to the front door, he felt a strange sense of unease. Jock knocked, but there was no answer. He used his key to open the door and called out for Charlie, but the house was silent. Jock walked through the quiet house, heading toward Charlie's home office. When he reached the door, he saw something that made his heart stop. Charlie was slumped over in his chair, a gun in his right hand, and there was a gunshot wound to his head. The sight was shocking and horrifying. Jock's hands trembled as he stood there, trying to process what he was seeing. Immediately, Jock ran to the phone and dialed 911. His voice shook as he told the operator that he had found his brother, and it looked like Charlie had taken his own life. The operator stayed on the line with Jock, trying to keep him calm while they waited for the police to arrive. Jock paced the room, looking around and trying to understand how this had happened. As he waited, Jock noticed something strange. Charlie was left-handed, but the gun was in his right hand. This detail stood out to him, making him question if this was really a suicide. He told the 911 operator about it, and she assured him that the police would investigate everything thoroughly. Within 15 minutes, the police arrived. They quickly secured the area and began their investigation, taking pictures, collecting evidence, and talking to Jock about what he had found. The police arrived at Charlie Mabry's house at 8:50 a.m. on March 15, 2001. The weather was cloudy and chilly, matching the somber mood of the situation. Detective Sarah Marlett and Detective Joe Jack Solaire led the investigation. They were known for their thorough and careful work. When the detectives entered the home office, they saw Charlie's body slumped over in his chair. The scene was disturbing. Charlie had a gunshot wound to his head, and the gun was in his right hand. This immediately caught the detectives' attention because Charlie was left-handed. There was no suicide note, which was also unusual. The detectives began their investigation by carefully examining the office. The room was mostly tidy, with just a few papers scattered on the desk. There were photos of Charlie and his wife, Lisa Ann, on the shelves. The detectives took pictures of everything and collected evidence, including the gun and any fingerprints they could find. Detective Marlett noticed the position of the gun and the angle of the wound. It didn't look right for a suicide. She and Detective Solaire discussed their observations and agreed that they needed to consider other possibilities. They talked to Jock Mabry, who had found his brother's body. Jock was visibly shaken but tried to provide as much information as he could. The detectives asked Jock about Charlie's recent behavior and any problems he might have been facing. Jock mentioned Charlie's struggles with alcohol and his distress over Lisa Ann's infidelity. He also told them about Charlie's plans to divorce Lisa Ann, which might have been a motive for someone to harm him. The detectives then used various tools to investigate the scene further. They used a special powder to find fingerprints and collected samples of anything that might provide clues, like hairs or fibers. They also checked Charlie's phone and computer for any messages or emails that could explain what happened. As they worked, Detective Solaire found a set of bank statements hidden in a drawer. These statements showed large sums of money being transferred to an offshore account in Lisa Ann's name. This discovery was significant and raised more questions about Lisa Ann's involvement. But police also talked to neighbors and friends to see if anyone had noticed anything unusual. Some neighbors mentioned hearing arguments between Charlie and Lisa Ann, which added to the suspicion. By the end of the day, the detectives had gathered a lot of evidence but still had many questions. The crime scene suggested that Charlie's death was not a simple suicide but a potential murder. The unusual details in the hidden bank statements pointed to a deeper, more complex story. The investigation was just beginning, and the detectives knew they had a challenging case ahead of them. Lisa Ann Mabry, 35, was the first suspect the police investigated. She was Charlie's wife and worked as a successful real estate agent in Charlotte, known for her charm and persuasive skills. She often hosted elaborate parties, including her infamous nude masquerade, making her a well-known figure in their community. On the afternoon of March 15, 2001, Detectives Sarah Marlett and Joe Jack Solaire visited Lisa Ann at her office. She greeted them with a calm demeanor, but the detectives could see the worry in her eyes. They began by asking her about the events leading up to Charlie's death. Lisa Ann explained that she and Charlie had been having marital problems. She admitted that they argued frequently and that Charlie was upset about what she said were her innocent and platonic friendships with other men. Lisa Ann's calmness was unsettling to the detectives. She spoke clearly and confidently. But there were inconsistencies in her statements. For example, she claimed to have been at home the previous night, but neighbors reported seeing her car leave late in the evening. The detectives then asked Lisa Ann about the hidden bank statements they found in Charlie's office. These statements showed large sums of money being transferred to an offshore account in her name. Lisa Ann seemed taken aback but quickly recovered, saying the money was for a business investment she hadn't told Charlie about. Despite her explanations, the detectives remained suspicious. They asked Lisa Ann if she knew why Charlie would have the gun in his right hand if he was left-handed. She hesitated and then suggested that he might have been secretly ambidextrous or in a state of distress. Throughout the interrogation, Lisa Ann maintained her composure. However, her calm and collected manner, combined with the hidden bank statements and the inconsistencies in her story, made her a prime suspect. The detectives noted that her possible motive could be the impending divorce, which would leave her without the financial support and lifestyle she was accustomed to. As the interview ended, Lisa Ann asked if she could go home. The detectives allowed her to leave, but made it clear that she was still under investigation. They watched as she walked out of the office, her face betraying a mix of fear and defiance. The detectives knew they needed more evidence to connect Lisa Ann directly to Charlie's death. They planned to look deeper into her financial transactions and personal relationships. Lisa Ann's hidden life and potential motives made her a key figure in unraveling the truth behind Charlie's mysterious death. Jock Mabry, 29, was the next person the police investigated. He was Charlie's younger brother and worked as Charlie's assistant. Jock was known for being loyal, efficient, and discreet. He handled Charlie's busy schedule and knew a lot about his personal life. On March 16, 2001, detectives Sarah Marlett and Joe Jack Soler brought Jock in for questioning. They wanted to understand more about his relationship with Charlie and Lisa Ann. Jock was visibly upset but cooperative. He admitted that he had been very close to Charlie and was deeply affected by his death. The detectives asked Jock about his relationship with Lisa Ann. After a moment of hesitation, Jock confessed that he had been one of Lisa Ann's lovers. He explained that he admired her and got caught up in her charm. However, he insisted that he had no reason to harm his brother. Jock seemed genuinely remorseful and ashamed of his actions. Detective Marlett then asked Jock about the night before Charlie's death. Jock explained that he had been at home and had spoken to Charlie on the phone. Charlie seemed stressed but didn't mention anything about harming himself. Jock's alibi was solid, but the detectives still had doubts because of his close relationship with both Charlie and Lisa Ann. The detectives also questioned Jock about the hidden bank statements found in Charlie's office. Jock seemed surprised and said he had no knowledge of the offshore account. He explained that he managed Charlie's schedule and some finances but wasn't involved in all aspects of Charlie's financial life. Jock's demeanor during the interrogation was a mix of sadness and guilt. He was devastated by his brother's death and upset about his sexual involvement with Lisa Ann. The detectives noted that while Jock had a potential motive due to his affair with Lisa Ann, he also seemed genuinely distraught and cooperative. Despite his cooperation, the detectives couldn't ignore the possibility that Jock might have had a role in Charlie's death. They decided to investigate further, looking into Jock's phone records, emails, and financial transactions to see if there was any connection to the offshore account or other suspicious activities. On March 18, 2001, a few days after Charlie's death, the weather was sunny but cool in Charlotte. Detective Sarah Marlett received a call that new evidence had been found. A junior police cadet was running evidence found at the Mabry house when she noticed something shiny. Upon closer inspection, she saw it was a CD. Detective Marlett and her partner, Detective Joe Jack Soler, quickly examined the CD at the police station. They found several documents and emails on it. The emails were between Lisa Ann and an unknown person discussing plans to transfer large sums of money to an offshore account. There were also detailed plans about a new life in the Philippines. This new evidence was crucial. The detectives immediately linked the CD to the hidden bank statements they had found earlier. They'd also discovered emails that showed Lisa Ann was planning to leave both Charlie and David Palmer, Charlie's best friend, and one of her other lovers. The documents revealed Lisa Ann's true intentions and painted a clearer picture of her motives. Detectives Marlett and Soler realized that Lisa Ann had been planning her escape for a long time. She had been funneling money into an offshore account, preparing to start a new life far away. The fact that Charlie had discovered this deception might have pushed him to finally decide on a divorce, which in turn could have led Lisa Ann to take drastic measures. With this new evidence, the detectives decided to bring Lisa Ann in for another round of questioning. This time, they confronted her with the emails and plans they have found. Lisa Ann's calm demeanor began to crack. She tried to explain the emails away, saying they were part of a business deal gone wrong with a wealthy Filipino family. However, the detectives were not convinced. The new evidence also showed that David Palmer was more involved than they initially thought. His influence over Lisa Ann and their affair added another layer to the investigation. The detectives knew they had to question David Palmer with a focus on his knowledge of Lisa Ann's plans. As the detectives pieced together the information, it became clear that Charlie's death was not a simple case of suicide. The hidden bank statements, the plans for a new life, and the emails pointed to a well-thought-out scheme. The detectives were determined to uncover the truth and bring justice for Charlie. David Palmer, 50, was the next person the police investigated. David was Charlie's best friend and had a reputation for being charming, ambitious, and somewhat manipulative. He worked as a financial consultant in Charlotte and was well known in social circles. He had been involved in a secret affair with Lisa Ann for several years, which complicated the case further. On March 20, 2001, detectives Sarah Marlett and Joe Jack Soler brought David in for questioning. They wanted to understand his relationship with Charlie and Lisa Ann and to uncover any potential motives he might have had. David appeared confident but slightly nervous as he sat down in the interrogation room. The detectives began by asking David about his friendship with Charlie. David spoke fondly of Charlie, describing him as a loyal and trustworthy friend. He claimed he had no knowledge of Charlie's intention to divorce Lisa Ann and expressed shock over Charlie's death. When asked about his affair with Lisa Ann, David admitted to it, but insisted that it was purely a personal matter and had nothing to do with Charlie's death. The detectives then confronted David with the emails found on the CD. These emails showed detailed discussions between David and Lisa Ann about their plans to transfer money to an offshore account and start a new life together. David's demeanor changed. He became defensive and agitated. He claimed the emails were part of a harmless fantasy and that neither he nor Lisa Ann had any intention of acting on them. David's potential motive was clear to the detectives. With Charlie out of the picture, David and Lisa Ann could have continued their relationship without fear of discovery. Additionally, there were financial benefits to be gained from Charlie's death. The detectives pressed David on these points, but he continued to deny any involvement in Charlie's death. Throughout the interrogation, David's responses fluctuated between calm and agitated. He seemed genuinely upset about Charlie's death, but was also defensive about his relationship with Lisa Ann. The detectives noted that while David had a clear motive, his emotional reactions made it difficult to gauge his true involvement. The detectives decided to dig deeper into David's financial transactions and personal communications to find more concrete evidence. They also planned to re-interview Lisa Ann to see if her story would change now that they had more information. By the end of the interview, David was allowed to leave, but the detectives made it clear that he was still a suspect. The new evidence and David's reactions provided valuable insights, but there were still many unanswered questions. The investigation continued as the detectives worked to piece together the full story behind Charlie's death. On March 25, 2001, the detectives received a breakthrough. The weather was rainy, and Detective Sarah Marlett was going through the evidence one more time when she found a hidden clue in the emails from the CD. One email from Lisa Ann to an unknown recipient detailed a plan to stage Charlie's death to look like a suicide. This was the missing piece they needed. Detective Marlett and Detective Joe Jack Soler quickly reviewed their findings. They now had enough evidence to confront Lisa Ann. The emails, bank transfers, and her calm demeanor during questioning all pointed to her as the mastermind behind Charlie's death. She had planned to leave Charlie and start a new life in the Philippines. But when he discovered her plans and decided to divorce her, she decided to take drastic measures. On March 26, 2001, at 9:00 a.m., the detectives went to Lisa Ann's house. The weather was still gloomy, mirroring the gravity of the situation. Lisa Ann opened the door, surprised to see the detectives. When they told her she was under arrest for the murder of her husband, her face showed a mix of shock and anger. She tried to protest her innocence, but the detectives read her rights and took her into custody. At the police station, Lisa Ann was interrogated again. This time, faced with the overwhelming evidence, she broke down and confessed. She admitted that she had planned to kill Charlie to avoid the shame and financial ruin that would come with the divorce. She revealed that she had convinced him to drink heavily the night before, then shot him with the gun in his right hand to make it look like a suicide. The news of Lisa Ann's arrest shocked the community. Charlie's family, especially Jock, was devastated. Jock had never imagined that his sister-in-law could commit such a terrible act. He felt a mix of anger and betrayal, but also a sense of relief that the truth had finally come out. Lisa Ann's arrest also impacted David Palmer, who was questioned again but found not directly involved in the murder plan. He was, however, implicated in the financial schemes and faced his own legal troubles. As Lisa Ann awaited trial, the community of Charlotte tried to come to terms with the tragic events. Charlie's memory was honored by his friends and family, who found some solace in knowing that his death was not in vain and that justice had been served. The trial of Lisa Ann Mabry began on September 10, 2001 in Charlotte. The courtroom was filled with media and spectators eager to see justice served. The prosecution, led by attorney Mark Vila, a determined and experienced 45-year-old, argued that Lisa Ann had carefully planned and executed her husband's murder. Vila presented evidence of the hidden bank accounts, the staged suicide, and Lisa Ann's motive to avoid financial ruin and public shame. The defense attorney, Torbey, a sharp and passionate 38-year-old, countered by painting Lisa Ann as a desperate woman trapped in an unhappy marriage. He argued that Charlie's alcoholism and erratic behavior drove Lisa Ann to make poor decisions, but insisted she was not guilty of murder. Tavi tried to cast doubt on the evidence, suggesting that someone else could have framed Lisa Ann. Throughout the trial, Charlie's family sat in the courtroom, their faces showing a mix of sorrow and anger. Jock Mabry, especially, found it hard to listen to the details of his brother's death and the betrayal by Lisa Ann. Friends and neighbors attended in support, hoping for a just outcome. The jury deliberated for 2 days before reaching a verdict. On September 22, 2001, they found Lisa Ann Mabry guilty of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom was filled with a sense of relief and sadness. Charlie's family felt justice had been served, but the pain of losing him remained. Lisa Ann showed little emotion as the verdict was read. Her once confident demeanor was replaced by a resigned expression. The community of Charlotte reacted to the news with a mix of shock and closure. The trial had revealed the dark secrets behind a seemingly perfect life, and many found it hard to reconcile the charming real estate agent they knew with the convicted murderer. Attorney Mark Vila expressed satisfaction with the verdict, stating that justice had been served for Charlie Mabry. Defense attorney Torbey expressed disappointment but acknowledged the jury's decision. The trial had been intense and emotional, leaving a lasting impact on everyone involved. In the aftermath of the trial, Charlie's family and friends continued to mourn his loss but found some comfort in the verdict. They hoped to rebuild their lives and remember Charlie for the loving husband, brother, and friend he was. The case also left a mark on the community, reminding everyone of the importance of looking beyond appearances and the consequences of deceit and betrayal. After the trial, life slowly began to move forward for everyone involved in the case. The community of Charlotte was still in shock, but they tried to return to their daily routines. Charlie's family struggled to cope with the loss and the betrayal they had faced. Jock Mabry, Charlie's younger brother, was deeply affected by the events. He had to come to terms with his own involvement with Lisa Ann and the impact it had on his brother's life. Jock decided to leave his job as Charlie's assistant and move to a different city to start fresh. He sought therapy to deal with his guilt and grief, determined to rebuild his life. Charlie's parents, who had been heartbroken by the murder, found solace in their remaining family and friends. They set up a scholarship fund in Charlie's name at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, where he had studied. This helped them feel like they were honoring his memory in a positive way. Lisa Ann Mabry was sent to the North Carolina Correctional Institution for Women. Life in prison was a stark contrast to her previous life of social gatherings and real estate success. She had a lot of time to reflect on her actions and the choices that led her to this point. Despite her efforts to appeal the conviction, her attempts were unsuccessful, and she remained in prison. David Palmer, Charlie's best friend, faced his own consequences. Although he was not charged with murder, his involvement in the financial schemes and the affair with Lisa Ann tarnished his reputation. He lost many clients and friends, and his business suffered. David decided to leave Charlotte and try to rebuild his career elsewhere, away from the shadow of the scandal. Detectives Sarah Marlett and Joe Jack Soler continued their work in the Charlotte Police Department. The case had been one of the most challenging of their careers, but it also brought them closer as partners. They were commended for their thorough investigation and dedication to solving the case. The experience made them more determined to seek justice in their future cases. The community, though scared by the tragedy, slowly began to heal. Neighbors and friends supported Charlie's family and each other, knowing that such a devastating event could happen to anyone. The case of Charlie Mabry remained a reminder of the dangers of deceit and the importance of staying vigilant. As the months passed, life in Charlotte returned to a new normal. The memory of Charlie Mabry lived on through the scholarship fund and the stories shared by those who knew him. His family and friends found ways to honor his legacy and move forward, even as they continued to grieve his loss. Michael Foster was a 28-year-old man who lived in Huntsville, Alabama. He owned a dog kennel called Happy Paws, where he took care of dogs while their owners were away. Michael loved animals and had a special way of making every dog feel loved and safe. His friends and family often said he had a kind heart and a laid-back personality. Michael lived in a small apartment on Pine Street, a cozy place with pictures of dogs on the walls and dog toys scattered around. After finishing school, he decided to open Happy Paws. His business became well known in Huntsville, with many people trusting him with their pets. Michael had a girlfriend named Darla Green. She was a fitness influencer with tens of thousands of followers on YouTube. Darla often posted videos of her workouts and talked about the importance of women getting strong and muscled. However, their relationship had problems. Darla was known to be very controlling and jealous, which led to many arguments between them. Michael was well-liked by everyone who knew him. He was also an active member of the Huntsville community, volunteering at animal shelters and participating in local events like the Panoply Arts Festival. Michael was known for his friendly nature and his ability to make everyone feel welcome. In the days before his death, Michael was excited about a new project at Happy Paws. He was planning to expand the kennel to accommodate more dogs and offer new services. He talked about his plans with his family and friends, who were all supportive. Michael also loved football and was looking forward to watching the upcoming March Madness games with his friends. Despite these issues, Michael remained focused on his dreams and his love for animals. He was looking forward to the future and all the possibilities it held. Sadly, his life was cut short in a tragic and violent way. On the morning of March 15, 2016, Michael Foster's body was discovered in his apartment. It was around 9:00 a.m. when his neighbor, Alex Leeson, noticed something strange. Alex lived in the apartment next to Michael's on Pine Street. That morning, Alex heard Michael's dog barking nonstop. This was unusual because Michael always made sure his dogs were well behaved. Alex decided to check on Michael. He knocked on the door, but there was no answer. Worried, he used the spare key Michael had given him for emergencies. When Alex opened the door, he immediately knew something was wrong. The apartment was a mess. Furniture was overturned, and there were signs of a struggle everywhere. Alex walked further into the apartment and saw Michael lying on the living room floor. Michael was motionless, and there was a phone charger cord wrapped tightly around his neck. Alex was shocked and terrified. His heart raced as he realized what he was seeing. Trying to stay calm, Alex quickly took out his phone and dialed 911. The 911 operator answered, and Alex, his voice shaking, explained what he had found. He told him about the barking dog, the messy apartment, and finding Michael on the floor. The operator assured Alex that help was on the way and instructed him to stay on the line until the police arrived. Minutes later, the sound of sirens filled the air. Police cars and an ambulance pulled up to the apartment building. They entered the apartment and immediately checked Michael for any signs of life. Sadly, it was clear that Michael was dead. The paramedics arrived and confirmed what the officers already knew. Michael Foster was gone. Officers spoke to Alex, who was still in shock but trying to be helpful. He explained everything he had seen and heard that morning. Police began securing the crime scene, making sure no one else could enter the apartment. News of the discovery spread quickly. Local media, including WAFF 48 News, reported on the tragic event. Neighbors gathered outside, whispering in disbelief about what had happened to Michael, the kind man who loved dogs and always had a smile for everyone. The discovery of Michael Foster's body marked the beginning of a complex investigation that would uncover secrets and lead to a shocking conclusion. The police arrived at Michael Foster's apartment quickly after Alex Leeson's 911 call on the morning of March 15, 2016. Detective Sharon Mitchell and her partner, Detective Emerson Carter, were the lead investigators on the case. Detective Mitchell was known for her attention to detail, and Detective Carter was respected for his methodical approach to investigations. When they entered the apartment on Pine Street, they saw a chaotic scene. The living room was in disarray with furniture overturned and items scattered everywhere. There were clear signs of a struggle. Detective Mitchell immediately noticed the metal phone charger cord wrapped around Michael's neck. It was evident that Michael had been strangled. The detectives began their investigation by carefully examining the crime scene. Detective Mitchell took detailed notes and photographs of everything in the apartment. She pointed out the defensive wounds on Michael's arms, indicating that he had fought back against his attacker. Detective Carter used the fingerprint kit to dust for prints on the furniture and door handles. The crime scene unit arrived with more specialized equipment. They used luminol, a chemical that glows blue when it comes into contact with blood, to look for hidden bloodstains. The living room floor and some pieces of furniture showed traces of blood, suggesting a violent struggle had taken place. Outside, police spoke with neighbors to gather information about any suspicious activity they might have noticed. Several neighbors mentioned hearing loud arguments between Michael and his girlfriend, Darla Green, in the days leading up to his death. This information was noted and would be crucial in the investigation. Back inside the apartment, Detective Carter found a broken picture frame with a photo of Michael and Darla. It was clear that the couple had a tumultuous relationship. The detectives also found Michael's cell phone on the floor. They bagged it as evidence, knowing it could hold important clues. As the investigation continued, Detective Mitchell interviewed Alex Leeson. He described finding Michael's body and the chaos in the apartment. His account matched the evidence the detectives had gathered so far. Alex mentioned that Michael's dog had been barking loudly that morning, which led him to check on his neighbor. The crime scene investigation lasted several hours. By the end of the day, the detectives had gathered a significant amount of evidence. They knew they needed to find out more about Michael's relationships and recent activities to solve the case. The police's thorough and careful work at the crime scene would be the foundation of their investigation into Michael Foster's tragic death. The first suspect in Michael Foster's murder was his girlfriend, Darla Green. Darla was 27 years old and a well-known fitness influencer. She had over 100,000 followers on YouTube, where she posted videos about workouts and healthy living. Darla was muscular and often called herself a muscle girl. She was also rumored to use steroids, which made her personality even more unpredictable. Darla and Michael had been dating for about a year. Their relationship was rocky, with frequent arguments, mostly due to Darla's controlling nature. She was known to be very possessive and jealous, often monitoring Michael's activities and questioning his interactions with others. Friends and neighbors had heard them arguing loudly several times. On March 15, 2016, the police brought Darla in for questioning at the Huntsville Police Department. Detective Sharon Mitchell and Detective Emerson Carter conducted the interview. Darla appeared nervous and defensive from the start. She insisted that she had been at the gym that morning and had no idea what had happened to Michael. The detectives asked Darla about her relationship with Michael. She admitted they had problems but claimed she loved him and would never hurt him. Detective Carter pressed her on the rumors about her using steroids and how it might have affected her behavior. Darla became agitated and denied using any illegal substances, though her aggressive demeanor suggested otherwise. When asked about the night before Michael's death, Darla said they had argued about Michael meeting his ex-girlfriend, Rosa Beth, who coincidentally was also Darla's mother. She accused Michael of being unfaithful, which he denied. The detectives noted Darla's intense jealousy as a possible motive for the murder. As the interview continued, Darla's story began to show inconsistencies. She couldn't clearly explain her whereabouts during the crucial hours of the morning. Her alibi about being at the gym was shaky, as the gym's security cameras showed no footage of her arriving or leaving. The detectives knew they needed more evidence to confirm Darla's involvement, but her controlling and jealous nature made her a prime suspect. After several hours of questioning, Darla was released, but the detectives kept a close watch on her. They needed to find more evidence to link her to the crime scene. Darla's erratic behavior and the strained relationship with Michael were key points in the ongoing investigation. The second suspect in Michael Foster's murder was his best friend and coworker, Daniel Harris. Daniel, 30 years old, had been friends with Michael for many years. They worked together at Happy Paws, Michael's dog kennel business. Daniel was known for being loyal and supportive, always there for Michael during tough times. Daniel was brought in for questioning at the Huntsville Police Department on March 16, 2016. Detective Sharon Mitchell and Detective Emerson Carter conducted the interview. Daniel was visibly upset about Michael's death, but he cooperated fully with the police. The detectives began by asking Daniel about his relationship with Michael. Daniel spoke fondly of his friend, describing him as kind and dedicated to his work. He mentioned that they spent a lot of time together, both at work and outside of it. Daniel also admitted that he often tried to mediate the arguments between Michael and Darla Green, Michael's girlfriend. When the detectives asked Daniel if he knew of any reason someone would want to hurt Michael, he hesitated. Then, in a quiet voice, Daniel revealed a shocking secret. He and Michael had been involved in a secret sexual relationship. Daniel explained that they had kept it hidden because they feared Darla's reaction. He was worried that Darla might have found out about their relationship and acted violently out of jealousy. Daniel's revelation added a new layer to the investigation. The detectives asked if he thought Darla was capable of harming Michael. Daniel nodded, describing her as controlling and possessive. He mentioned several instances where Darla had shown extreme jealousy, even over small things. The detectives also questioned Daniel about his whereabouts on the morning of March 15. Daniel said he was at home feeling unwell and decided to take the day off from work. He provided the detectives with the names of neighbors who could confirm his story. Detective Mitchell made a note to follow up on Daniel's alibi. Daniel was calm and cooperative throughout the interrogation, but it was clear he was deeply affected by Michael's death. The detectives thanked him for his honesty and assured him they would do everything they could to find the person responsible for Michael's murder. The new information about Michael and Daniel's relationship opened up more questions and potential motives. The detectives knew they needed to dig deeper into the lives of everyone involved to uncover the truth. The third suspect in Michael Foster's murder was Rosa Beth Green, Darla's mother and Michael's ex-girlfriend. Rosa Beth was 56 years old and a high school science teacher. She had remained on friendly terms with Michael even after he started dating her daughter. Rosa Beth was known for being kind and understanding, traits that made her a beloved teacher at Huntsville High School. On March 17, 2016, the police brought Rosa Beth in for questioning. Detectives Sharon Mitchell and Emerson Carter conducted the interview. Rosa Beth appeared calm but worried. She was cooperative and answered all their questions. The detectives began by asking about her relationship with Michael. Rosa Beth explained that she and Michael had dated a few years ago and that she had, quote, the best sex of my life during our time together. She also said they had remained friends after they broke up. She mentioned that they occasionally met for coffee to catch up and talk about life. Rosa Beth admitted that Darla did not like their friendship and often got jealous. When asked about the days leading up to Michael's death, Rosa Beth said she had seen Michael a week before he was killed. They had met at a local Burger King to discuss how Michael could level up his sex life with Darla. Rosa Beth noted that Michael seemed stressed and mentioned problems with Darla, but he didn't go into details. Detective Carter asked Rosa Beth about her whereabouts on the morning of March 15. She stated she was at school, teaching her first period biology class. Several colleagues and students could confirm her presence. The detectives made a note to follow up on her alibi. The conversation then turned to Darla. Rosa Beth expressed concern about her daughter's behavior. She described Darla as controlling and often paranoid about Michael's interactions with other people. Rosa Beth admitted that Darla's jealousy had caused tension between them. She also mentioned her daughter's use of steroids, which seemed to make her more aggressive and unstable. The detectives asked Rosa Beth if she believed Darla was capable of harming Michael. Rosa Beth hesitated but then nodded, saying she feared Darla's jealousy and obsession might have driven her to do something drastic. She shared instances where Darla had acted out in anger, reinforcing the detective's suspicions. Throughout the interview, Rosa Beth remained composed and provided valuable insights into Darla's behavior. The detectives thanked her for her cooperation and assured her they were doing everything they could to find out what happened to Michael. As Rosa Beth left the police station, Detective Mitchell and Detective Carter discussed the new information. Rosa Beth's statements about Darla's jealousy and aggressive behavior added more weight to the growing evidence against Darla. The investigation was moving forward, and the detectives were determined to uncover the truth. On March 20, 2016, 5 days after Michael Foster's body was found, the police received a significant piece of new evidence. It was a rainy afternoon around 3:00 p.m. when Detective Sharon Mitchell got a call from a resident of Michael's apartment building. A resident said she had found something unusual in the building's trash bin. Detective Mitchell and Detective Emerson Carter arrived at the apartment complex and met with Linda. She handed them a small black diary she had found while taking out her garbage. The diary was in rough shape, but it was clear it had belonged to Darla Green, Michael's girlfriend. The detectives took the diary back to the police station to examine it carefully. As they flipped through the pages, they discovered detailed entries about Darla's relationship with Michael. The entries revealed Darla's growing paranoia and jealousy. She wrote about her suspicions that Michael was cheating on her, not just with his ex-girlfriend Rosa Beth, but also with a man, which they later confirmed to be Daniel Harris. One entry from a week before Michael's death stood out. Darla had written about installing hidden cameras in Michael's apartment to monitor his every move. She described how she watched him interact with other people and how it fueled her anger and jealousy. The final entry was chilling. Darla wrote about her plan to confront Michael, expressing fear that he was planning to leave her. The diary provided crucial insight into Darla's state of mind and her obsessive behavior. Detective Carter noted that the entries matched the timeline of events leading up to Michael's murder. The detectives decided to search Darla's apartment for the hidden cameras mentioned in the diary. On March 21, the police obtained a search warrant and went to Darla's apartment. They found several small hidden cameras placed around the living room and bedroom. The cameras were connected to a recording device hidden in a closet. The detectives took the device back to the station for analysis. The recordings from the cameras showed Darla spying on Michael. There were videos of him talking on the phone, meeting with friends, and even interacting with Daniel Harris. The recordings provided concrete evidence of Darla's invasive and controlling behavior. They also showed her entering and leaving Michael's apartment at odd hours, including the morning of March 15. With this new evidence, the detectives felt they were closer to solving the case. Darla's actions and the contents of the diary painted a clear picture of her mental state and possible motive for murder. The investigation was far from over, but the pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together. On March 25, 2016, the police finally identified Michael Foster's murderer. Darla Green, Michael's girlfriend, was arrested for his murder. Darla was 27 years old and a fitness influencer with over 100,000 followers on YouTube. Her obsession with controlling Michael and her use of steroids had made her mentally unstable. The detectives pieced together the events leading up to Michael's death from the diary found in Darla's apartment and the hidden camera recordings. The diary detailed Darla's escalating paranoia and jealousy. She suspected Michael of cheating on her with both his ex-girlfriend Rosa Beth, who was also Darla's mother, and his best friend Daniel Harris. On the night of March 14, Darla confronted Michael in his apartment. Her anger and jealousy led to a heated argument. The hidden cameras recorded parts of this confrontation. In a fit of rage, Darla grabbed the phone charger cord and strangled Michael. The struggle left the apartment in disarray, and Michael tried to fight back but was overpowered. On the morning of March 15, Darla left the apartment, hoping to make it look like Michael had been attacked by someone else. She went to the gym to establish an alibi, but the gym's security cameras did not capture her presence, weakening her defense. Detectives Sharon Mitchell and Emerson Carter gathered all the evidence and presented it to the district attorney. With the diary, the recordings, and Darla's inconsistent alibi, they had a strong case against her. The police decided to arrest Darla at her apartment. On the afternoon of March 25, the police arrived at Darla's apartment. Detective Mitchell knocked on the door, and Darla answered, looking surprised and nervous. Detective Carter informed her that she was under arrest for the murder of Michael Foster. Darla's face turned pale, and she began to cry, but she did not resist arrest. As Darla was taken away in handcuffs, the news quickly spread. Michael's family was relieved that the murderer had been caught, but devastated by the betrayal from someone they had trusted. They expressed their gratitude to the police for their hard work in solving the case. Neighbors and local media, including Delive AFF 48 News, reported on the arrest, highlighting the tragic end of a troubled relationship. The community was shocked that someone as well-known as Darla could commit such a crime. The arrest of Darla Green marked a significant breakthrough in the investigation. The detectives felt a sense of closure, knowing they had brought Michael's killer to justice. However, the pain of his loss remained for his family and friends, who had to come to terms with the tragic events. The trial of Darla Green began on June 12, 2016, at the Madison County Courthouse. The case had garnered significant media attention, with local news outlets covering every development. The courtroom was packed with reporters, family members, and curious onlookers. The prosecution was led by District Attorney Oliver Leeson, a 45-year-old with a reputation for being tough and thorough. In his opening statement, Leeson laid out the evidence against Darla. He highlighted the diary entries that detailed her escalating paranoia, the hidden camera recordings that captured her confrontations with Michael, and the physical evidence from the crime scene. Leeson argued that Darla's jealousy and obsession drove her to murder Michael in a fit of rage. The defense attorney, Lisa Roberts, was a 38-year-old known for her calm demeanor and sharp legal mind. She argued that Darla was not in her right mind at the time of the murder due to the effects of steroids and emotional stress. Roberts claimed that Darla's actions were not premeditated but the result of a temporary lapse in judgment caused by her mental state. Throughout the trial, Michael's family sat in the front row, their faces a mix of sorrow and anger. They listened intently as witnesses, including neighbors and Michael's friends, testified about the turbulent relationship between Michael and Darla. Daniel Harris's testimony about his secret relationship with Michael added a layer of complexity to the case, revealing the depth of Darla's jealousy. The jury deliberated for 3 days before reaching a verdict. On June 28, 2016, the foreman announced that Darla Green was found guilty of second-degree murder. The courtroom was silent as the judge read the verdict. Michael's family hugged each other, tears streaming down their faces. They felt a sense of justice but were still grieving their loss. During the sentencing phase, the prosecution argued for a severe punishment, emphasizing the brutality of the crime and the impact on Michael's loved ones. The defense pleaded for leniency, citing Darla's mental health issues and lack of prior criminal history. In the end, the judge sentenced Darla to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentence was met with mixed reactions. Michael's family felt it was a fair punishment, while some of Darla's supporters believed it was too harsh, considering her mental state. The community was divided, with debates about the influence of steroids on behavior and the responsibilities of those who used them. The trial's conclusion brought some closure to Michael's family, but the emotional scars remained. They had to learn to live without him, holding on to the memories of the kind and gentle man they had lost. After the trial, life slowly began to move on for everyone involved. Michael Foster's family struggled with their loss, but they found solace in their memories of him. His parents, David and Linda Foster, started a charity in Michael's name, the Foster Animal Foundation, to support animal shelters in Huntsville. This helped them feel connected to Michael's passion for animals and gave them a sense of purpose. Daniel Harris, Michael's best friend and coworker, faced a difficult time. The revelation of his secret relationship with Michael had shocked many, but he received support from friends and colleagues. Daniel continued working at Happy Paws, the dog kennel Michael had started, determined to keep Michael's dream alive. He also sought therapy to help him cope with the trauma and grief. Rosa Beth Green, Darla's mother and Michael's ex-girlfriend, also found the aftermath challenging. As a high school science teacher, she focused on her students, finding some distraction in her work. She remained in touch with Michael's family, sharing their sorrow and supporting their charity efforts. The ordeal brought her closer to them, creating a bond of shared grief. Darla Green's YouTube channel, once filled with workout videos and health tips, was abandoned. Her followers were shocked by the news of her crime. In prison, Darla participated in mental health programs and anger management classes. She spent her time reflecting on. Michael's friends and family held an annual memorial at Happy Paws on his birthday, celebrating his life and love for animals. This gathering became a tradition, a way for everyone to remember Michael and find comfort in each other's company. The trial and its aftermath had left a mark on everyone involved. They had all been touched by Michael's kindness and the tragedy of his untimely death. Through their efforts to honor his memory and support each other, they found a way to heal and move forward. Melanie Varela, a 20-year-old from Sherbrooke, Quebec, found herself attending the University of Virginia and working as a nanny during her summer break. This dedicated and ambitious young woman was driven by her dreams of becoming a successful lawyer. Melanie had a loving family back in Canada and was known for her kind and compassionate nature. It was the summer of 1999, and Charlottesville, Virginia was buzzing with excitement. The city was preparing for a concert at the University of Virginia's Scott Stadium. The event was highly anticipated, with fans flocking from all over the country to witness the renowned musical extravaganza. In the midst of this vibrant atmosphere, Melanie found herself employed by the wealthy Hartzfeld family. They were prominent members of the community who lived in a grand mansion on the outskirts of town, surrounded by sprawling gardens and a white picket fence. Melanie's days were filled with taking care of the Hartzfelds' child, Mei Ling, adopted from China. She would wake up early in the morning to prepare breakfast, help with school assignments, and engage in various outdoor activities. The girl adored Melanie, and she quickly became an integral part of their lives. However, beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect family, there were whispers of tension and secrets. Rumors circulated among the local gossip mill, hinting at marital discord and financial troubles within the household. As the days turned into weeks, Melanie's curiosity grew. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Determined to uncover the truth, she discreetly began snooping around the house, searching for any clues that might shed light on the Thompsons' hidden secrets. Little did Melanie know her quest for the truth would lead her down a dark and treacherous path, forever changing the course of her life. On the ominous afternoon of June 2, 1999, the quiet town of Charlottesville, Virginia, was shrouded in an atmosphere of unease. Dark clouds ominously loomed overhead, mirroring the impending tragedy that was about to unfold. As the day wore on, tension mounted within the Hartzfeld residence. The once peaceful home now held a sinister secret, unbeknownst to Melanie Varela, a diligent and driven 20-year-old student from Sherbrooke, Quebec, who had been working as a nanny for the affluent Hartzfeld family during her summer break from the University of Virginia. Little did she know that her life was about to take a tragic turn, forever altering the lives of those around her. It was in the dimly lit basement of the Hartzfeld family's opulent mansion that Melanie's lifeless body was discovered. The shocking find was made by Jane Salvador, a Brazilian maid employed by the family. Startled and trembling, Janela wasted no time in alerting the authorities, her voice quivering with fear as she recounted the horrifying scene she had stumbled upon. Gossip about Melanie's untimely demise spread like wildfire through the tight-knit community of Charlottesville. As the investigation unfolded, details would emerge. The basement, once a place of storage and solace, had become a haunting crime scene. The authorities meticulously combed through the area, searching for any clues that would shed light on the events leading to Melanie's tragic demise. In this small town, where everyone seemed to know each other, the tragic death of Melanie Varela shattered the illusion of safety. The once peaceful streets now felt haunted as the community grappled with the chilling reality that a dark secret had been lurking within their midst. On June 2, 1999, Charlottesville, Virginia, a city usually steeped in the idyllic charm of Southern history and academia, was rocked by a grisly discovery. In the basement of a stately home on the prestigious Maplewood Drive, the lifeless body of Melanie Varela, a 20-year-old University of Virginia student and part-time nanny, was found. The scene was one of unmitigated horror. Varela had been savagely murdered, her throat slit in a violent act that left the community reeling. The Charlottesville Police Department, led by seasoned detectives Smith and Ramirez, descended upon the Hartzfeld residence with a sense of urgency that matched the gravity of the crime. The family, prominent in local academic circles, was now at the center of a murder investigation that would grip the city for months to come. As the detectives navigated the blood-spattered basement, the evidence of a struggle was undeniable. Amidst the chaos, a picture of the victim began to emerge. Varela, known for her academic ambition and compassionate nature, had been living a double life with members of the Hartzfeld family. As the investigation unfolded, local media outlets like the Daily Progress and Duty lner Radio provided coverage, drawing parallels to the infamous Ramsey case that had captivated the nation just a few years prior. The community, still reeling from the shock, could hardly believe that such a crime could occur in their midst, in a city where the biggest concerns were often which historical tour to take or whether the Cavaliers would win their next game. The case of Melanie Varela, with its blend of academic prestige and sordid secrets, would become a fixture in the annals of true crime in Charlottesville, a stark reminder that no place, no matter how picturesque, is immune to the darker aspects of human nature. In the quiet college town of Charlottesville, Virginia, a scandalous liaison turned deadly when Melanie Varela, a 20-year-old University of Virginia student, was found murdered. The prime suspect, James Hartzfeld, a 44-year-old physics professor renowned for his academic prowess, but now under scrutiny for his clandestine affairs. Hartzfeld, who had been nurturing a secret sexual relationship with Varela while she nannied his adopted daughter, Mei Ling, became the focal point of a sensational investigation. As detectives delved into the professor's private life, they uncovered a web of deceit that extended far beyond the ivy-covered walls of academia. The case, which unfolded in the summer of 1999, captivated the nation. It was a time when the world was gripped by the fear of the impending Y2K bug, and the media was still reeling from the sensational coverage of the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal. Amidst this backdrop, the Hartzfeld case emerged as a stark reminder of the dark underbelly of seemingly idyllic university life. Detectives Smith and Ramirez, seasoned investigators with the Charlottesville Police Department, interrogated Hartzfeld with a calculated intensity. They probed his alibis, dissected his interactions with Varela, and scrutinized every facet of his personal life. Hartzfeld's reactions, a volatile cocktail of anger and denial, only served to heighten suspicions. As the interrogation wore on, the evidence against Hartzfeld mounted. A torn ticket stub from the hit movie The Matrix hinted at a premeditated alibi, and whispers of Hartzfeld's affinity for the then-popular Tommy Hilfiger Hager painted a picture of a man caught between the facade of respectability and the allure of forbidden pleasures. The case against James Hartzfeld was quickly becoming irrefutable, and the once-respected professor found himself ensnared in a narrative that seemed straight out of a Dateline mystery. As the investigation continued, the question on everyone's mind was whether justice would be served in the court of law or if the court of public opinion had already sealed Hartzfeld's fate. In the serene town of Charlottesville, a veneer of tranquility was shattered by a heinous crime that gripped the community. Paula Hartzfeld, a prominent figure in the literary circles of Charlottesville, Virginia, found herself entangled in a scandalous investigation following the brutal murder of Melanie Varela, a young nanny employed by the Hartzfeld family. Paula, known for her erudite literary symposiums that often featured esteemed authors and captivated Charlottesville's intellectual elite, seemed an unlikely participant in such a sordid affair. Yet beneath the surface of her cultivated exterior, a different narrative was unfolding, one that would challenge the public's perception of her. The police, delving into the intricacies of Melanie's life, uncovered a clandestine sexual relationship between Paula and the victim. This revelation came as a shock to those who knew Paula as the wife of James Hartzfeld, a respected physics professor, and the mother to Mainling, their adopted daughter from China. During the interrogation, Paula's composure wavered under the weight of the detective's probing questions. Her unease was palpable, her answers laced with defensiveness. The detectives, seasoned in the art of discernment, noted the subtle shifts in her demeanor, her fleeting glances, the nervous tapping of her fingers, and the inconsistency in her recounting of the events leading up to Melanie's death. As the investigation deepened, the media frenzy intensified. Local news outlets like the Daily Progress began to speculate on the dynamics within the Hartzfeld household. The community watched, riveted, as the case unfolded, bearing witness to a tragedy that would leave an indelible mark on the town's history. The scrutiny of Paula Hartzfeld's role in this grim saga continued, with the authorities piecing together a timeline that suggested a motive rooted in jealousy and betrayal. The question on everyone's mind: could a woman of Paula's stature be capable of such a crime? Or was there more to the story than met the eye? In the investigation of Melanie Varela's murder, a pivotal discovery was made that would cast a new light on the case. The Charlottesville Police Department, in a meticulous search of the Hartzfeld residence, uncovered a diary belonging to the victim. This personal journal, filled with sexually explicit details and confessions, became a key piece of evidence, revealing the complex web of relationships Melanie had entwined with each member of the Hartzfeld family. The diary entries painted a vivid picture of Melanie's life and her interactions with each member of the family. It chronicled her secret sexual liaisons and the emotional turmoil that accompanied them. The police, combing through the pages, found references to clandestine meetings, sexual acts, and a growing sense of fear as Melanie became aware of the precariousness of her situation. Detectives Smith and Ramirez, leading the investigation, approached the diary with the precision of forensic analysts. They cross-referenced dates, events, and encounters, corroborating the diary's accounts with other collected evidence. The diary's revelations were damning, implicating not just one, but all members of the Hartzfeld family in a sordid saga of manipulation and deceit. The media, including local outlets like WVIR-NBC 29, were quick to pick up on the story. The diary's contents became fodder for speculation and analysis as reporters dissected its entries, seeking to understand the motives behind the murder. As the diary's secrets unfolded, the community of Charlottesville watched in disbelief. The University of Virginia, an institution known for its honor code and academic integrity, was now at the center of a scandal that defied comprehension. The Hartzfeld family, once respected members of the academic and literary community, were now suspects in a crime that had shattered the peace of this quiet college town. The investigation into the brutal murder of Melanie Varela took a dramatic turn as attention shifted to Kevin Hartzfeld, the 22-year-old son of James and Paula Hartzfeld. A recent graduate from the University of Virginia, Kevin's involvement with Melanie was as complex as it was secretive. Detectives Smith and Ramirez, experienced in the psychological nuances of interrogation, sat across from Kevin in the sterile room at the Charlottesville Police Department. The air was thick with tension as they began their questioning, seeking to peel back the layers of Kevin's relationship with Melanie. Kevin, his face a canvas of conflicting emotions, oscillated between anger and palpable fear. His voice, when he spoke, betrayed the turmoil within. The detectives pressed on, their questions sharp and unyielding, cutting to the heart of the matter. They probed for details about his illicit affair with Melanie, an affair that had been kept hidden from the prying eyes of the public. The interrogation revealed a disturbing pattern of behavior. Kevin, like his parents, had been ensnared in a web of sexual deceit with Melanie. The police uncovered evidence of their sexual encounters, each one meticulously documented in a perverse scorecard the family maintained. The Hartzfeld residence, once a symbol of academic achievement and cultural sophistication, was now the epicenter of a scandalous murder investigation. The family's dark secret, once confined to the pages of Melanie's diary, was now laid bare for the world to see. With each passing moment, the walls closed in on Kevin Hartzfeld. The evidence mounted, and the reality of his situation became increasingly clear. The young man, who had once walked the halls of academia with pride, now faced the possibility of a life behind bars. In the quiet college town of Charlottesville, Virginia, a sinister plot unraveled within the walls of the Hartzfeld home, culminating in the tragic demise of Melanie Varela. The investigation into her murder took a dramatic turn when detectives uncovered the involvement of not one, but all three members of the Hartzfeld family. James Hartzfeld, a respected physics professor, his wife Paula, known for her literary gatherings, and their son Kevin, a recent college graduate, were all implicated in the crime. The trio had been entangled in a web of illicit sexual relationships with Melanie, each seeking to have secret sex with her in turn. Their clandestine sex was meticulously recorded in a scorecard of their sexual encounters with her, a chilling testament to the twisted sexual competition that had developed among them. The discovery of this scorecard was a pivotal moment in the case, as it exposed the lengths to which the Hartzfelds would go to maintain their facade of normalcy. Each point on the scorecard represented a sexual encounter with Melanie, reducing her to a mere object in their grotesque sex game. It was this dehumanizing treatment that ultimately led to her silence, permanently. As the community of Charlottesville grappled with the shock of such a heinous act occurring in their midst, the public watched in horror as the details of the case were laid bare, from the bloodstains in the basement to the disturbing entries in Melanie's diary. The Hartzfelds' motive was clear: to protect their secret at all costs. Their fear of exposure drove them to conspire against Melanie, leading to a brutal act of violence that would end her life and shatter the tranquility of Charlottesville. As the trial approached, legal experts weighed in on the case, speculating on the outcome and the potential sentences. The Hartzfelds faced the possibility of life in prison, a stark contrast to their previous lives of prestige and privilege. The case served as a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind closed doors, even in the most seemingly idyllic of settings. The police, after a meticulous investigation, pieced together the evidence that pointed unequivocally to the family's guilt in the murder of Melanie Varela. The day of reckoning came when law enforcement officials, armed with irrefutable proof, arrested James, Paula, and Kevin Hartzfeld. The scene was one of stark reality, as the family, Once respected members of the community were handcuffed and taken into custody. The surprise and resignation on their faces were palpable, a stark contrast to their previous academic and social standing. As the news of the arrest spread, local media outlets prepared to broadcast the story, drawing parallels to other infamous family crime sagas. The coverage was thorough, with journalists providing in-depth analysis of the case's impact on the small Virginia town. The victim's family, who had held onto hope from their home in Sherbrooke, Quebec, were now faced with a mix of relief and sorrow. The truth brought closure, but also a deep sense of loss for Melanie, whose aspirations and kindness were remembered by all who knew her. In the solemn halls of the Charlottesville courthouse, the trial of the Hartzfeld family unfolded like a narrative ripped from the pages of a crime thriller, capturing the rapt attention of the area, ensuring that not a single detail of the proceedings would escape the public eye. District Attorney Tina Arundel, known for her prosecutorial acumen, presented the case against the Hartzfelds with precision and clarity. The courtroom hummed on every word as she recounted the sordid details of the relationships between Melanie Varela and each member of the family, painting a picture of a household ensnared in its own web of deceit. Defense attorney Anne-Marie Gooseneck, renowned for her tenacious courtroom strategies, mounted a vigorous defense. She challenged the prosecution's narrative, suggesting that the evidence was circumstantial and the investigation flawed. Her arguments were crafted to sow doubt in the minds of the jurors, but the weight of the evidence was formidable. The prosecution's case was bolstered by the discovery of Melanie's diary, which became the silent witness to the tragedy. It revealed the intimate and exploitative nature of her relationships with James, Paula, and Kevin Hartzfeld, and the existence of a macabre scorecard that documented their encounters. As the trial progressed, the media coverage intensified. Local news outlets like WVIR-NBC 29 featured nightly segments, dissecting each day's testimony and offering expert legal analysis. The case had all the elements of a primetime drama: passion, betrayal, and a quest for justice. The victim's family, who had traveled from Sherbrooke, Quebec, sat in dignified grief, their presence a constant reminder of the life so brutally taken. They listened intently as the prosecution spoke of Melanie's aspirations and her vibrant spirit, now forever silenced. After days of testimony and deliberation, the moment of truth arrived. The jury, having weighed the evidence, found the Hartzfelds guilty on all counts. The sentence was swift and severe, reflecting the gravity of their crimes. The courtroom erupted in a cacophony of emotion as the verdict was read. The trial's conclusion brought closure to some, but for others, questions lingered. Had justice been served? Could anything compensate for the loss of a young woman with such promise? The Hartzfeld case would remain a topic of discussion in law schools, on social media platforms like Twitter, and in the quiet conversations of those who call Charlottesville home. As the gavel struck for the last time, the case of Melanie Varela closed, leaving behind a legacy of cautionary tales about the dangers of secrets and the pursuit of truth. The trial, a stark tableau of the consequences of unchecked desire and duplicity, left an indelible mark on all who witnessed it. The aftermath of the Hartzfeld trial left an indelible mark on the community of Charlottesville. The once respected family faced the stark reality of their actions, as the gavel's final echo signified the end of their saga of a world where the pursuit of truth met the darkest human deeds. The police, lauded for their unwavering dedication, continued to serve as guardians of justice, their resolve strengthened by the case's outcome. The victim's family, hailing from the serene town of Sherbrooke, Quebec, embarked on a painful journey toward healing, their quest for closure intertwined with the memory of Melanie's vibrant life and tragic end. As the Hartzfelds began their sentences, the ripple effects of the trial extended beyond the courtroom. In Charlottesville, life slowly resumed its rhythm, but the shadows cast by the trial lingered. The case became a fixture in the town's lore, a cautionary tale of how secrets can unravel the fabric of a family and a community. The story of Melanie Varela and the Hartzfelds would not be forgotten, serving as a somber reminder of the fragility of trust and the price of deception. The case of Melanie Varela's murder sent shockwaves through Charlottesville, Virginia, in June of 1999. This true crime story exposed the depths of human deception and the tragic consequences that ensued. Lawrence Peters, a 50-year-old man, was the proud owner of a thriving swimming pool supply company in the city of San Mateo in the Bay Area of Northern California. Known throughout the community for his business acumen, Lawrence was a devoted husband of 20 years to his wife Denise and a loving father to his Stanford student daughter, Jayla. He also adored his role as dog daddy to his beloved Shih Tzu, Richard Davies. Lawrence's aspirations revolved around expanding his business and providing a comfortable life for his family. September 2010 was a time of both innovation and tragedy for the residents of San Mateo. While Lawrence was planning to expand his business, the city was shaken by the San Bruno pipeline explosion, a disaster that gripped headlines and hearts alike. It was a stark reminder of life's unpredictability, echoing the unforeseen calamity that would soon befall Lawrence himself. Lawrence's business, Aquapools, had gained a reputation for its top-notch products and exceptional customer service. His success had not come easy, though. Years of hard work and dedication had transformed Aquapools into a trusted brand in the swimming pool industry. Lawrence's unwavering commitment to quality and his passion for innovation had earned him the respect of both his peers and his clients. As the days grew shorter and the air turned crisp, his latest pool cleaning robot, the AquaSweep 3000, was set to be the star attraction at the local pool and spa expo. Lawrence believed that this revolutionary device would revolutionize the pool maintenance industry, making the tedious task of cleaning pools a thing of the past. Tragically, Lawrence's ambitions were cut short. What was initially thought to be a severe illness revealed itself as something far more sinister: murder. The investigation into his death would uncover a web of deceit that ran deeper than anyone could have imagined, turning the Peters' idyllic life into a true crime case. On September 15, 2010, a serene day in San Mateo, California, the local community was struck by a harrowing event. Lawrence Peters, a 50-year-old entrepreneur known for his thriving swimming pool supply business, Aquapools, faced an untimely demise. The businessman, admired for his dedication to family and commerce, succumbed to what was initially believed to be a severe illness in his hospital room, leaving behind a legacy of success and a bewildered community. The illness that claimed Lawrence's life had taken hold 3 weeks prior, its symptoms escalating rapidly, confounding medical professionals. It was during these critical moments that his wife, Denise Peters, was by his side, witnessing his struggle. In his final moments, Lawrence uttered a puzzling phrase: "Was it my wife or my girlfriend?" Words that would later echo through the corridors of the investigation. Denise, who had shared 2 decades of marriage with Lawrence, was engulfed by a wave of emotions. Her reaction was a complex tapestry of shock, sorrow, and a hint of suspicion, reflecting the dual nature of her husband's last words. Despite the turmoil within, she promptly notified the hospital staff, clinging to a sliver of hope for Lawrence's survival. The news of Lawrence's passing reverberated beyond the confines of the hospital. In a town still reeling from the recent San Bruno pipeline explosion, this personal tragedy added to the collective sense of loss. The incident, which had dominated headlines just days earlier, now shared space with the mysterious circumstances surrounding Lawrence's death. As the investigation unfolded, it became apparent that Lawrence's demise was not a mere twist of fate, but the result of foul play. The community, which had once seen Lawrence as a pillar of entrepreneurial spirit, now grappled with the grim reality that his life had been deliberately cut short. In the backdrop of this personal tragedy, the world continued to turn, a stark contrast to the somber mood that had settled over San Mateo. The case of Lawrence Peters, a man who had aspired to elevate his business to the heights of such household names, had instead become a subject of true crime lore, leaving behind a family, a pet, and a tale of intrigue that would captivate and confound all who heard it. The investigation into the death of Lawrence Peters, a prominent businessman, began in earnest on September 15, 2010. Detectives O'Reilly and Ying arrived at the San Mateo Hospital, where Lawrence had breathed his last. The room, a sterile environment typical of medical facilities, showed no immediate signs of criminal activity. Yet the detectives were not convinced this was a natural death. As they combed through the room, the detectives took note of every detail: the IV stand, the beeping monitors now silent, and the personal effects that seemed untouched. They collected samples, knowing that the smallest clue could be the key to solving the case. The initial medical reports were vague, but toxicology would later confirm their suspicions. Lawrence had been poisoned. The question of who could commit such a heinous act loomed large. Lawrence was a well-respected figure, his company Aqua Dynamics a known name in the South Bay area. He was a family man with a wife and a daughter, and even his pet Shih Tzu, Richard Davies, who was a beloved fixture in his life. Detectives O'Reilly and Ying faced a daunting task. They needed to piece together Lawrence's final weeks, scrutinize his personal and professional relationships, and construct a timeline that could lead them to the perpetrator. The community watched, waited, and wondered who among them could be responsible for such a betrayal. As the investigation unfolded, the detectives would find themselves delving into a complex web of deceit, where business rivalries and personal vendettas blurred the lines between friend and foe. The case of Lawrence Peters was not just a local crime story, it was a narrative that would capture the attention of true crime enthusiasts. In Lawrence Peters' murder, all eyes turned to his wife, Denise Peters, as the prime suspect. At the age of 52, Denise managed a vegan bookstore in downtown San Mateo, California. She was not just Lawrence's wife, but as a published author of a popular young adult sci-fi novel, Althea and the Federation of Light, Denise was a figure of cultural significance in her own right. The police interrogated Denise with a sense of urgency, trying to uncover any possible motive for the murder. As they delved into her background, they discovered that Denise and Lawrence had been married for 20 years, seemingly living a life of wedded bliss. However, beneath the surface, there were whispers of marital discord. According to the American Center for Family Relationships, 85% of married Americans have cheated on their spouse, and Denise was no different. They discovered that Denise had been having an affair with a local businessman, Jamie Trevelyan. Jamie, an 85-year-old entrepreneur who owned a chain of successful coffee shops in the Bay Area, was known for his charismatic personality and connections within the community. The police believed that this affair could be the key to understanding the motive behind Lawrence's murder. As the investigation unfolded, the detectives uncovered a series of sexually explicit text messages exchanged between Denise and Jamie during the weeks leading up to Lawrence's death. These messages hinted at a strained relationship between Denise and her husband, with discussions about leaving Lawrence and starting a new life together. The detectives also discovered that Denise had taken out a life insurance policy on Lawrence just a few months before his death, raising further suspicions. To gather more evidence, the police interviewed friends, family, and employees of both Denise and Lawrence. They discovered that Lawrence had found out about the affair before his illness and confronted Denise about it. This revelation had caused significant tension in their marriage, leading many to believe that Denise had a motive to eliminate Lawrence. As the investigation continued, the police sought to corroborate Denise's alibi during the time of Lawrence's death. They reviewed surveillance footage from the hospital and interviewed hospital staff who had interacted with Denise during that period. However, there were no solid leads or evidence to conclusively prove or disprove her involvement in the crime. As the detectives delved deeper, they considered every possibility. Was a crime of passion a result of a love triangle hinted at by Lawrence's cryptic last words? Or was it a calculated move to gain control of Lawrence's successful business, Aqua Dynamics? The answers were not forthcoming. As the investigation into the shocking murder of Lawrence Peters unfolded, another suspect emerged from the shadows. Dr. Francesca Lualhati, a 39-year-old doctor at the hospital where Lawrence had met his untimely demise, became the focus of intense scrutiny. The revelation that Dr. Lualhati was Lawrence's secret girlfriend sent shockwaves through the community and added a new layer of complexity to the case. Dr. Lualhati was a respected physician, known for her dedication and expertise in the field of internal medicine. She had been working at San Mateo Hospital for 5 years, earning the trust and admiration of her colleagues. Friends and coworkers described her as intelligent, hardworking, and compassionate. However, beneath the surface, a web of secrets was about to unravel. The police wasted no time in bringing Dr. Lucchetti in for questioning. The interrogation room was tense as detectives O'Reilly and Yane delved into the doctor's personal life, searching for any possible motive for the murder. Dr. Lucchetti vehemently denied any involvement, her anger palpable as she defended her innocence. During the interrogation, it was revealed that Dr. Lucchetti and Lawrence had been involved in a clandestine sexual affair for over a year. Their relationship had blossomed in the shadows, hidden from prying eyes. The detectives probed deeper, trying to understand the dynamics of their secret romance. They discovered that the affair had been fraught with tension and secrecy, as Lawrence struggled to balance his commitment to his wife and family with his desire for a passionate connection with Dr. Lucchetti. As the investigation continued, the detectives uncovered a series of text messages exchanged between Lawrence and Dr. Lucchetti in the weeks leading up to his death. These messages painted a picture of a troubled relationship filled with jealousy, suspicion, and betrayal. Lawrence had confided in a close friend about his fears that Dr. Lucchetti was becoming increasingly possessive and volatile. The detectives also discovered that Dr. Lucchetti had recently purchased a bottle of a powerful sedative, commonly used in hospitals for anesthesia. This raised suspicions about her possible involvement in Lawrence's death. However, Dr. Lucchetti maintained that the sedative was intended for professional use and vehemently denied any sinister intentions. As the investigation reached its critical juncture, the police were left with more questions than answers. Was Dr. Lucchetti a scorned lover seeking revenge? Or was she an innocent bystander caught in a web of deceit? The truth remained elusive, hidden behind a veil of secrecy and betrayal. The investigation into the mysterious murder of Lawrence Peters took a dramatic turn on September 20, 2010, when a crucial piece of evidence was discovered. The weather that day was gloomy, mirroring the somber mood of the investigation team as they delved deeper into the case. Detectives O'Reilly and Ying were meticulously combing through the office of Dr. Francesca Lucchetti, a 39-year-old doctor at the hospital where Lawrence had tragically passed away, and his secret lover. It was during this search that they stumbled upon a vial of radium hidden among the doctor's belongings. Radium, a highly radioactive substance, was once used in various medical treatments and industrial applications. Its discovery in Dr. Luchetti's office sent shockwaves through the investigative team, raising serious questions about her possible involvement in Lawrence's death. To fully understand the significance of this finding, it is important to delve into the background of radium and its potential implications in a murder case. Featured in the Oscar-winning film Oppenheimer, radium emits harmful radiation, which can cause severe health issues, including cancer. Its usage in medical treatments has been largely phased out due to its dangerous nature. The discovery of the vial of radium in Dr. Luchetti's possession raises several intriguing questions. How did she acquire this highly restricted substance? What was her motive for possessing it? And most importantly, could radium have been the deadly poison that claimed Lawrence's life? As the investigation team delves deeper into Dr. Luchetti's involvement, they are meticulously examining her personal and professional connections. They are leaving no stone unturned in their quest for the truth. Interviews with colleagues, patients, and acquaintances of Dr. Lucchetti are being conducted to shed light on her character and possible motives. The discovery of the vial of radium injected new life into the investigation, providing a potential breakthrough in unraveling the mystery behind Lawrence Peters' murder. Detectives O'Reilly and Ing were determined to follow every lead, meticulously piecing together the puzzle of this perplexing crime. As the investigation intensifies, the truth inches closer to the surface. Will Dr. Luchetti's connection to the radium vial be the key that unlocks the secrets of Lawrence's untimely demise? In the investigation into the shocking murder of Lawrence Peters, a new suspect emerged. Lyle Deacon, a 35-year-old nurse at the hospital in San Mateo, California, where Lawrence tragically passed away. Unbeknownst to his colleagues, Lyle has a dark past as an ex-felon from Minnesota, where he committed a series of fatal poisonings at a previous hospital. The police were now focusing their attention on Lyle, exploring his personality, dreams, and potential motives in order to uncover the truth behind Lawrence's untimely demise. Lyle Deacon, a tall and wiry man with a brooding demeanor, had been working at the hospital for just over a year. Colleagues described him as introverted and mysterious, often keeping to himself during his shifts. He was known for his meticulous attention to detail when it came to patient care, but little did anyone suspect the darkness that lurked beneath his calm exterior. During the police interrogation, Lyle vehemently denied any involvement in Lawrence's murder. He claimed that his troubled past was behind him and that he had turned his life around. However, the investigators were not convinced and delved deeper into his background. The detectives discovered that Lyle had been released from prison just a few months before he started working at the San Mateo Hospital. His criminal record revealed a history of poisoning patients at a hospital in St. Paul, Minnesota, which resulted in multiple deaths. The media had dubbed him the Midwest Menace during the trial that followed. As the investigation progressed, the police uncovered a disturbing pattern. It was revealed that Lyle had a fascination with toxic substances and had been secretly researching various poisons online. They also discovered a hidden stash of chemicals in his apartment, including a vial of cyanide, a deadly poison. The detectives meticulously combed through Lyle's work history, interviewing former colleagues and patients from the Minnesota hospital. They found chilling similarities between the poisonings that occurred there and Lawrence's death. The victims had all exhibited similar symptoms, and the timeline of events matched up. The evidence against Lyle Deacon was mounting, but the investigators knew they needed more to prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. They continued to gather witness statements, comb through financial records, and analyze phone records for any connections to Lawrence or the other suspects. As the investigation into Lawrence Peters' murder intensified, the police remained determined to uncover the truth and bring the perpetrator to justice. With Lyle Deacon now firmly in their sights, the detectives were leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of justice for Lawrence and his grieving family. After an intense investigation, the police finally cracked the case of Lawrence Peters' murder. The mastermind behind this heinous crime had been identified as none other than Dr. Francesca Lucchetti, a 39-year-old doctor at the hospital where Lawrence tragically passed away. The motive behind this shocking act of violence stems from a web of deceit and betrayal. It was revealed that Dr. Lucchetti was not only Lawrence's secret girlfriend, but also harbored deep feelings of anger and resentment towards him as a result of her severe case of codependency syndrome. In a fit of rage and vengeance, she decided to poison him, putting an end to his life and shattering the dreams of his family. The evidence against Dr. Lucchetti was compelling. On September 20, 2010, the police made a breakthrough discovery in her office. Hidden away, they found a vial of radium, a highly toxic substance that can cause severe harm to the human body. This revelation sent shockwaves through the investigation team, providing a crucial link between Dr. Lucchetti and the murder of Lawrence Peters. The arrest of Dr. Lucchetti took place on a stormy evening, reminiscent of the dark cloud that had loomed over Lawrence's family since his untimely demise. The police, acting swiftly and decisively, apprehended the doctor, who was taken aback by her own arrest. The moment was captured by the local news vans of KGO and KNTV, with cameras flashing and reporters clamoring for the latest details on this sensational case. As the news of Dr. Luchetti's arrest spread, Lawrence's family experienced a mix of relief and grief. Relief that the person responsible for their loved one's murder had been brought to justice, but also grief for the loss they had suffered. Their lives will never be the same, but at least they found solace in knowing the truth about what happened to Lawrence. This shocking crime and its subsequent investigation served as a reminder that even in seemingly ordinary lives, dark secrets can lurk, leading to tragic consequences. The story of Lawrence Peters' murder will forever be etched in the annals of true crime, a cautionary tale of betrayal and the pursuit of justice. The trial that followed the shocking murder of Lawrence Peters in September 2010 was a gripping courtroom drama that captivated many true crime geeks in the Bay Area. Dr. Francesca Lualhati, the mastermind behind Lawrence's untimely demise, faced the consequences of her heinous act as the prosecution presented a compelling case against her. Prosecutor Bertram Holbert-Toole, a seasoned legal expert known for his meticulous approach, skillfully outlined the motive behind the murder. He painted a picture of a woman consumed by anger and betrayal, seeking revenge against a man she once loved. With the help of expert witnesses and compelling evidence, Holbert-Toole established a strong case against Dr. Lualhati. Defense attorney Lisa Betchworth, known for her tenacity and ability to create doubt, fought tooth and nail to establish reasonable doubt. Betchworth questioned the credibility of the evidence, pointing out potential flaws in the investigation. She argued that the vial of radium found in Dr. Lualhati's office could have been planted by someone else with malicious intent. Despite her efforts, the weight of the evidence against Dr. Lualhati proved too substantial to overcome. Throughout the trial, Lawrence's grieving family sat in the courtroom, seeking justice for their beloved husband and father. Their emotions ran high as they listened to the testimonies and examined the evidence. The pain of their loss was palpable as they clung to the hope that justice would be served. The trial lasted for weeks, with the media closely following. News outlets such as the San Mateo Tribune and the local TV station, Channel 7 News, provided daily updates on the proceedings. The courtroom was packed with reporters, eager to capture every moment of the trial for the public. After careful consideration of the evidence presented by both sides, the jury deliberated for several days. On a tense afternoon, the verdict was delivered. Dr. Francesca Lualhati was found guilty of the murder of Lawrence Peters. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief and grief as Lawrence's family finally received the justice they had longed for. The sentencing that followed left a lasting impact on both the murderer and the victims' families. Judge Lee Thornburg, known for her no-nonsense approach to justice, handed down a sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The courtroom fell silent as the weight of the sentence sank in, leaving Dr. Lualhati with no chance of redemption. The trial of Dr. Francesca Lualhati and the subsequent verdict and sentencing marked the end of a tragic chapter in the lives of Lawrence Peters' family. The nation watched as justice was served, and debates about the adequacy of the punishment and the concept of justice raged on. After the dramatic conclusion of the trial, the lives of all those involved took a significant turn. Denise Peters, Lawrence's wife, was faced with the harsh reality of her husband's infidelity and the pain of losing him. She sought solace in the support of her close-knit community in San Mateo, California, who rallied around her during this difficult time. Dr. Francesca Lualhati, the mastermind behind Lawrence's murder, faced the consequences of her actions. She was sentenced to serve time in the California State Women's Prison, where she would spend her days reflecting on the choices that led her down a dark path. Lawrence's family and friends slowly began to heal, finding solace in the cherished memories they had of him. They organized a memorial service to celebrate his life and honor his legacy. The service took place at the Stanford Memorial Church, a place Lawrence held dear to his heart. Friends and family shared heartfelt stories and anecdotes, reminiscing about his kindness, generosity, and love for his family. In the months following the trial, Denise made the difficult decision to sell Lawrence's swimming pool supply company. She wanted to start anew and create a different future for herself and her daughter. In the years that followed, Lawrence's family and friends slowly rebuilt their lives. They found solace in the memories they shared and the knowledge that justice had been served. While the pain of losing Lawrence would never fully fade, they were determined to honor his memory by living their lives to the fullest and cherishing the time they had together. And so concludes the tragic tale of Lawrence Peters, a man whose dying words sparked a murder investigation that unraveled a web of secrets and betrayal. Join us next time as we delve into another captivating true crime case. Stay tuned for more episodes of True Crime Case Files, where we uncover the darkest mysteries. Samantha Huang, a 28-year-old personal assistant, lived a life that seemed straight out of a glossy magazine. Residing in the affluent town of Walnut Creek, Samantha was renowned for her opulent lifestyle, adorned in the finest designer clothing and indulging in a world of luxury. Her presence was a constant spectacle, capturing the attention of those who craved a glimpse into her seemingly perfect existence. Behind the facade of confidence, however, Samantha battled deep-rooted insecurities and an insatiable craving for validation. Her relentless pursuit of attention fueled her personal and professional life, propelling her towards success while leaving a trail of envious acquaintances in her wake. Samantha's life was a captivating blend of glamour and ambition. She frequented trendy restaurants, mingling with influential figures in the fashion and entertainment industry. Her social circle boasted celebrities, socialites, and power players, all eager to bask in the radiance of her charismatic persona. As we dig deeper into Samantha's life, we uncover the intricate web of relationships that surrounded her. Rumors of a love triangle emerge, pitting Samantha against two individuals vying for her affections. The tension and jealousy that simmered beneath the surface would ultimately lead to a devastating outcome. On the chilling evening of November 17, 2002, tragedy struck the quiet town of Walnut Creek, California, as the lifeless body of Samantha Huang, a 28-year-old personal assistant, was discovered under mysterious circumstances. The rain poured relentlessly, adding to the somber atmosphere that engulfed the crime scene. It was around 7:30 p.m. when Patty Snarlbrook, a 91-year-old passerby, unintentionally stumbled upon the horrifying sight that would forever haunt her. As Patty made her way home, her frail frame braving the elements, she noticed a peculiar disturbance near a dimly lit park. Curiosity piqued, she approached cautiously, her heart pounding with a mix of trepidation and curiosity. As Patty drew closer, her eyes widened in shock and disbelief. There, lying on the cold, wet pavement, was the lifeless form of Samantha Huang. The scene was reminiscent of a noir film, with the raindrops falling like tears from the sky, mirroring the sorrow felt by those who would soon learn of Samantha's tragic fate. Patty, a woman of advanced age but sharp intellect, immediately recognized the severity of the situation. Panic set in as she fumbled for her cell phone, dialing 911 with trembling hands. Her voice quivered as she relayed the grim discovery to the emergency operator, her words punctuated by the sound of raindrops hitting the pavement. Within minutes, the sound of sirens pierced the air, signaling the arrival of the authorities. The scene quickly transformed into a hive of activity as police officers and forensic experts descended upon the crime scene. Yellow crime scene tape was stretched across the alleyway, marking it as a place of tragedy and intrigue. As investigators meticulously combed through the evidence, the media frenzy surrounding the case intensified. The murder of Samantha Huang had become a captivating mystery that captivated the Bay Area, leaving no one untouched by its chilling implications. The police wasted no time in responding to the report of Samantha Huang's lifeless body. Detectives Julian Laughlin and Carolina Ramirez arrived at the scene, their faces grim with determination. The rain poured down relentlessly, adding to the somber atmosphere that hung over the crime scene. The location where Samantha's body was discovered was a secluded spot in a Walnut Creek park. The park, usually a place of tranquility and leisure, had now become the center of a macabre investigation. Yellow police tape cordoned off the area, preventing curious onlookers from getting too close. As the detectives approached the crime scene, they could see the unmistakable stain of blood on the ground. It was a chilling sight, a stark contrast against the wet grass and fallen leaves. The rain had washed away some of the evidence, but there were still enough clues for the investigators to work with. The first step was to secure the area and ensure that no evidence was disturbed. Detective Laughlin carefully placed markers next to each significant item, meticulously documenting their position. He then directed the crime scene technicians to begin their work. The forensic team, dressed in white protective suits, started their search for clues. They meticulously combed through the area, collecting samples of the soil, leaves, and any other potential evidence. Every step was taken with utmost care, as even the smallest detail could prove crucial in solving the case. Detective Ramirez focused her attention on Samantha's personal belongings. She carefully examined the victim's handbag, searching for any items that may provide insight into her life and potential motives for her murder. Among the contents, she found a receipt from a local jewelry store, indicating that Samantha had recently purchased an expensive necklace. Could this purchase be connected to her untimely demise? Meanwhile, Detective Laughlin interviewed witnesses who frequented the park. He spoke to joggers, dog walkers, and anyone who might have seen something out of the ordinary on that fateful day. One witness mentioned seeing a suspicious-looking man lurking near the crime scene, but his description was vague, leaving the detectives with more questions than answers. As the investigation progressed, the detectives faced the challenge of piecing together the puzzle of Samantha's murder. With each passing day, the pressure mounted to solve the case and bring justice to Samantha and her grieving loved ones. Daniel "Dan" Tearsbeek, a 32-year-old business executive, found himself at the center of a storm of suspicion surrounding the tragic murder of Samantha Huang. Known for his charm and influential connections, Dan was no stranger to the glitz and glamour of the high-flying lifestyle that Samantha reveled in. However, beneath his polished exterior, a web of secrets and guilt threatened to unravel. As the investigation unfolded, the police focused their attention on Dan, meticulously dissecting his every move and motive. The media frenzy surrounding the case only intensified the scrutiny on him. Reporters camped outside his upscale apartment building, eager to capture any glimpse of the man who was entangled in this deadly love triangle. In the interrogation room, Dan's carefully crafted facade began to crack. Under the relentless questioning of Detective Laughlin, beads of sweat formed on Dan's forehead, betraying his inner turmoil. The detective pressed him on the nature of his relationship with Samantha, the extent of their involvement, and any potential motive for her murder. Dan's voice trembled as he denied any wrongdoing, insisting that he had nothing to do with Samantha's untimely demise. He recounted their passionate affair, painting a picture of a torrid love affair that had consumed them both. He spoke of the nights spent at exclusive restaurants, the lavish gifts he showered upon her, and the trips they took to Hawaii and Las Vegas. But the detectives were not easily swayed by Dan's words. They delved deep into his financial records, uncovering a series of suspicious transactions that raised eyebrows. Large sums of money had been transferred from his accounts in the weeks leading up to Samantha's murder. The police wondered if these funds were used to hire a hitman or to cover up any evidence of his involvement. But amidst the media frenzy, justice remained the ultimate goal. The detectives meticulously gathered evidence, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of the truth. They were determined to unveil the dark secrets that lay hidden beneath the glossy surface of Samantha's glamorous life. In the investigation into the tragic murder of Samantha Huang, another suspect emerged: Emily Tearsbeek, the 34-year-old wife of Dan Tearsbeek. Emily seemed to embody the picture-perfect suburban wife, with her neatly manicured lawn, charming smile, and her beloved chihuahua, Carl J. Wertheimer. However, beneath her demure facade, a seething rage towards Samantha lurked. Emily saw Samantha as a threat to her marriage, a woman who had captivated her husband's attention and shattered the tranquility of their once harmonious life. Consumed by jealousy, Emily meticulously devised a plan to eliminate her romantic rival, leaving no stone unturned in her quest for vengeance. The police, led by detectives Julian Laughlin and Carolina Ramirez, delved into Emily's background, seeking to uncover the truth behind her seemingly innocent exterior. They discovered a woman who had meticulously crafted a facade of suburban bliss, but harbored a deep-seated resentment towards Samantha. As the investigators delved deeper, they discovered a trove of evidence that pointed towards Emily's involvement in Samantha's murder. They found a series of incriminating text messages exchanged between Emily and a mysterious contact known only as R. These messages revealed a sinister plot to poison Samantha with a lethal dose of arsenic, cunningly laced in her favorite champagne. The journal contained chilling entries, describing in meticulous detail the steps Emily had taken to ensure Samantha's demise. During the police interrogation, Emily's demeanor oscillated between calm denials and moments of intense anger. She vehemently denied any involvement in Samantha's death, claiming the texts and the journal entries were a private fantasy meant to relieve her anger. But her carefully constructed facade began to crumble under the intense interrogation against her. As the investigation continued, the detectives meticulously pieced together the puzzle, connecting the dots between Emily's motive, her actions, and the tragic outcome. The police published a preliminary investigation report, written at a fourth-grade vocabulary level of the insured that even the youngest readers could understand the gravity of the situation. As the investigation into Samantha Huang's murder continued, a surprising suspect emerged from the shadows. Tiffany Watson, a 25-year-old receptionist and co-worker of Samantha. Tiffany's resentment towards Samantha's success and glamorous lifestyle had been simmering beneath the surface for months, and now the police had reason to believe that her envy had driven her to commit a heinous crime. Tiffany, with her long brown hair and piercing blue eyes, seemed like an unlikely suspect. She often wore a fake smile and spoke in a soft, innocent voice that could easily deceive those around her. But the detectives saw through her facade and were determined to uncover the truth. During the police interrogation, Tiffany's demeanor shifted between feigned innocence and veiled hostility. She tried to downplay her rivalry with Samantha, claiming that they were just co-workers and that she had no reason to harm her. But the evidence told a different story. The detectives discovered that Tiffany had been secretly stalking Samantha for months. She had meticulously collected newspaper clippings and magazine articles featuring Samantha's success, pinning them to a corkboard in her small apartment. The board was covered in red string, connecting the articles in a web of envy and obsession. Furthermore, the detectives found a diary hidden under Tiffany's mattress. Its pages were filled with delirious, sexually explicit and disturbing entries detailing Tiffany's growing hatred and sexual attraction towards Samantha. She wrote about how Samantha's designer clothes and luxurious lifestyle made her feel inferior and how she would do anything to bring Samantha down. The detectives also uncovered a receipt from a local pharmacy dated November 10, 2002. The receipt showed that Tiffany had purchased a bottle of arsenic, the same deadly poison that had ended Samantha's life. The detectives also found traces of arsenic in Tiffany's apartment, linking her directly to the murder. As the evidence mounted against her, Tiffany's composed demeanor began to crumble. She became more agitated, her voice trembling as she continued to deny any involvement in Samantha's death. She claimed she had bought the bottle of arsenic to kill herself. The investigation into Samantha Huang's murder had taken a dark turn, revealing how love, envy, and betrayal that can exist together within the human heart. The detectives' relentless pursuit of justice had brought them closer to the truth, but there were still unanswered questions. What other secrets lay hidden beneath the surface? After an intense and painstaking investigation, the truth behind Samantha Huang's untimely demise finally was unveiled. The culprit responsible for this heinous crime was none other than Emily Tearsbeek, the wife of Samantha's wealthy lover, Daniel Dan Tearsbeek. Emily, a seemingly ordinary 34-year-old woman, harbored a deep-seated resentment towards Samantha. She perceived Samantha as a threat to her marriage and meticulously devised a plan to eliminate her romantic rival. Consumed by a toxic mix of jealousy and betrayal, Emily cunningly poisoned Samantha with a lethal dose of arsenic, cleverly laced in her favorite champagne. The police, led by detectives Julian Laughlin and Carolina Ramirez, left no stone unturned in their quest for justice. Their relentless pursuit of the truth led them to uncover crucial evidence that ultimately pointed to Emily as the mastermind behind this chilling murder. As the investigation intensified, the detectives interrogated Emily, unmasking her manipulative nature and her willingness to go to extreme lengths to eliminate her competition. Emily's responses ranged from calm denials to moments of intense anger, painting a complex portrait of a woman driven by envy and consumed by her own dark desires. The arrest of Emily Tearsbeek sent shockwaves through the wealthy community of Walnut Creek, California, leaving friends and neighbors stunned by the revelation that a seemingly ordinary woman could be capable of such a heinous act. Samantha's family, though devastated by their loss, found solace in the fact that justice had been served. As the trial of Emily Tearsbeek looms on the horizon, the community eagerly awaits the day when she will face the consequences of her actions. In the end, Samantha's vibrant spirit lives on, a reminder of the tragic consequences that can arise from the darkest corners of the human psyche. The legacy of this case will forever serve as a cautionary tale, reminding us all of the importance of trust, loyalty, and the devastating consequences that can arise when these values are forsaken. The trial that ensued after Samantha Huang's tragic murder in November 2002 captivated the area, with media outlets like KGO and CanTV closely following the proceedings. Emily Thiersbeek, the mastermind behind the twisted plot to eliminate her husband's mistress, stood at the center of the courtroom, her fate hanging in the balance. In a packed courtroom, the prosecution presented a meticulously crafted case against Emily, led by the formidable prosecutor Tabitha Quasimodo. Quasimodo, known for her tenacity and unwavering dedication to justice, left no stone unturned in her pursuit of the truth. She skillfully weaved together witness testimonies, forensic evidence, and a compelling narrative that painted Emily as a calculating and cold-blooded murderer. The defense attorney, Michael Laraboots, fought tirelessly to protect his client's interests. Laraboots, renowned for his ability to sway juries with his persuasive arguments, employed every legal tactic in his arsenal to cast doubt on the prosecution's case. He called into question the reliability of the evidence, challenged the credibility of witnesses, and attempted to create a narrative that placed the blame elsewhere. Samantha's family, clad in somber attire, sat in the front row, their eyes fixed on the proceedings. The weight of their loss was palpable, and their hope for justice was intertwined with a sense of grief that seemed insurmountable. The courtroom itself buzzed with tension as the public and media awaited the verdict that would determine Emily's fate. After weeks of gripping testimony and impassioned arguments, the jury retired to deliberate. Their decision would shape the lives of both the victims and the perpetrators' families, and the nation held its breath in anticipation. Finally, the verdict was delivered. Emily Thiersbeek was found guilty on all charges. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the courtroom as the gravity of the decision sunk in. Samantha's family, though relieved that justice was served, struggled to find solace in the knowledge that their beloved daughter and sister could never be brought back. The sentencing phase of the trial commenced, and emotions ran high. The prosecution argued for a sentence that reflected the heinous nature of the crime, citing the pain and suffering inflicted upon Samantha and her loved ones. The defense, on the other hand, pleaded for leniency, highlighting Emily's lack of prior criminal history and her potential for rehabilitation. Ultimately, the judge, Honorable William Galville Gavelson, delivered the sentence. Emily Thiersbeek was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief, anger, and sadness. The impact of the verdict reverberated through the lives of all those involved, leaving a lasting scar that would never fully heal. As the trial concluded, the media frenzy surrounding the case gradually subsided, but the memory of Samantha Huang and the chilling tale of betrayal, jealousy, and revenge would forever remain etched in the annals of crime history. In the aftermath of the highly publicized trial, the lives of those involved in the Samantha Huang murder case took unexpected turns. For Daniel Dan Thiersbeek, the wealthy businessman who had been entangled in a deadly love triangle, life would never be the same. The trial had exposed his infidelity and shattered his marriage to Emily Thiersbeek. Dan, now a recluse, was rarely seen in public, preferring to spend his days in his secluded mansion overlooking the picturesque hills of Walnut Creek. His once thriving business empire had crumbled under the weight of scandal, leaving him a shadow of his former self. Meanwhile, Emily Thompson, the mastermind behind the twisted plot, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Her days were now spent behind cold steel bars, contemplating the consequences of her actions. The monotony of prison life was a stark contrast to the glamorous world she had once inhabited. The media circus that had surrounded the trial had moved on to other sensational stories, leaving Emily to face the harsh reality of her choices alone. As for Samantha's family, the wounds of her untimely death were still fresh. They had found solace in each other's company and the support of their close-knit community. The Samantha Huang Foundation, established in her memory, had become a beacon of hope for victims of domestic violence. Through their tireless efforts, the foundation provided resources and support to those in need, ensuring that Samantha's legacy lived on. The police officers who had tirelessly worked on the case, Detectives Julian Laughlin and Carolina Ramirez, were commended for their dedication and professionalism. Their meticulous investigation had brought justice to Samantha and closure to her grieving family. Their names would forever be etched in the annals of crime history, remembered as the heroes who had unraveled the truth behind the chilling murder. As the years passed, The Samantha Huang murder case faded from the headlines, becoming a distant memory for most. The once bustling streets of Walnut Creek returned to their peaceful existence, with residents going about their daily lives. The scars left by the tragic events of November 2002 would always remain, a reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that can lurk within the human heart. Our victim, Vicki Davis Goderby, was a 28-year-old marketing executive. She possessed a quick wit and a magnetic personality, which drew people to her effortlessly. Vicki's ambition was evident in her dedication to her career, often working late hours to climb the corporate ladder. Despite her professional success, her personal life remained shrouded in secrecy. The classic Southern rumor mill of Charleston, South Carolina swirled about Vicki's alleged sexual involvement with multiple men, including a married man and even a high school student. These rumors, fueled by local chatter at church and iced tea socials, painted a complex picture of a woman entangled in a web of sex and illicit affairs. The gossipy frenzy surrounding her personal life only intensified the intrigue surrounding Vicki. September of 1998 was a tumultuous time in Charleston. The city was still reeling from the aftermath of Hurricane Bonnie, which had struck the region just weeks prior. The hurricane had caused widespread damage, leaving many residents displaced and struggling to rebuild their lives. Against this backdrop of recovery and resilience, the shocking murder of Vicki Davis Goderby unfolded. As we delve deeper into this case, we will explore the lives of those connected to Vicki, including her husband and mother-in-law, both of who would play a central role in the chilling plot that unfolded. We will examine the evidence, witnesses, and motives behind this heinous crime. Join us as we navigate the twists and turns of this true crime tale that gripped the community of Charleston, South Carolina. On a fateful day in September 1998, a peaceful and affluent neighborhood of Charleston, South Carolina was shattered by a heinous crime that would forever haunt its residents. The victim, Vicki Davis Goderby, a 28-year-old marketing executive, met a tragic end in her own bedroom, the scene of a brutal act of violence that sent shockwaves through the community. Vicki was a woman of ambition, known for her quick wit and magnetic personality. Her dedication to her career was unwavering, often working late hours to climb the corporate ladder. However, behind her professional success, there were whispers of a controversial sex life that added a layer of intrigue to the case. Rumors circulated about Vicki's alleged involvement with multiple men, including a married individual and even a high school student. These whispers fueled speculation and cast a shadow over her reputation. The discovery of Vicki's lifeless body sent shockwaves through the affluent neighborhood. The crime scene was a chilling sight, with bloodstains and signs of a violent struggle. The murder weapon, a baseball bat, added a horrifying twist to the already perplexing case. The residents, accustomed to a life of comfort and security, were left in a state of disbelief. News of the murder spread like wildfire, capturing the attention of the local media. The community, once shielded by its genteel, classically Southern affluence, found itself thrust into the spotlight as the investigation unfolded. September 1998 became a month etched in the memories of Charleston's residents. The murder of Vicki Davis Goderby had shattered their sense of security, forcing them to confront the darkness that lurked beneath the surface. It was a crime that demanded answers, and the community rallied together, determined to find justice for Vicki. A quiet neighborhood of Charleston, South Carolina was shattered by the gruesome murder of 28-year-old marketing executive Vicki Davis Goderby in September of 1998. The police, led by the tenacious detective Sean "Trash Talk" Reilly, wasted no time in their pursuit of justice. Upon arriving at the crime scene, the investigators were met with a chilling sight. Vicki's bedroom, once a place of comfort and solace, had been transformed into a scene of unspeakable violence. Blood splatters adorned the walls, starkly contrasting with the elegant decor that surrounded them. The air was heavy with a sense of dread as the investigators began their meticulous examination. The murder weapon, a baseball bat adorned with the logo of the Florida Marlins, lay discarded near Vicki's lifeless body. Its wooden surface was stained with her blood, a grim reminder of the brutality she had endured. Detective Reilly carefully collected the bat, hoping it would provide crucial clues to unravel this heinous crime. As the investigation unfolded, the police discovered that Vicki's personal life was far from ordinary. Rumors had swirled about her involvement with multiple men, including a married man and even a high school student. These revelations added a layer of complexity to the case, leaving the investigators to question whether her sex life played a role in her tragic demise. Detective Reilly and his team meticulously combed through Vicky's personal belongings, searching for any evidence that could shed light on her murder. They meticulously examined her phone records, revealing a series of cryptic messages and calls from unknown numbers. The investigators reached out to the phone company, hoping to trace the origins of these mysterious communications. Meanwhile, local media outlets began to take notice of the high-profile case. The community was gripped by fear, with residents locking their doors and looking over their shoulders, unsure if the killer lurked among them. As the investigation continued, Detective Reilly and his team tirelessly pursued every lead, determined to bring justice to Vicky and her grieving family. Their efforts would uncover a web of deceit, betrayal, and secrets that would shock the community to its core. Evelyn Traylene Goderby, a 63-year-old woman of Southern charm and impeccable manners, found herself at the center of the investigation into Vicky Davis Goderby's murder. Evelyn, known for her old money background and esteemed reputation, had always presented herself as a pillar of the community. However, beneath her polished exterior, a deep-seated resentment towards her daughter-in-law simmered. The motive for Evelyn's potential involvement in the crime stemmed from her concern for the family's legacy. Vicky's decision not to have children was seen as a threat to the Goderby name, a name that had long been associated with wealth and influence in Charleston, South Carolina. The tension between the two women had been building for months, with Evelyn feeling increasingly marginalized by Vicky's success and independence. As the police interrogated Evelyn, her emotions swung from anger to denial. She vehemently refuted any involvement in the murder, insisting that she had no reason to harm Vicky. However, the mounting evidence against her was difficult to ignore. Detective Sean "Trash Talk" Reilly, the lead investigator on the case, meticulously pieced together the puzzle. He discovered that Evelyn, a baseball fan, had been in possession of a baseball bat similar to the murder weapon. This discovery raised suspicions and pointed towards Evelyn's possible guilt. Furthermore, Reilly uncovered a series of anonymous letters sent to Vicky in the months leading up to her death. These letters contained veiled threats and warnings, suggesting that someone close to her had ill intentions. Handwriting analysis revealed similarities between the anonymous letters and Evelyn's own penmanship. The investigation took a dramatic turn when a neighbor recalled seeing Evelyn's convertible parked near Vicky's house on the day of the murder. This eyewitness account provided a crucial link between Evelyn and the crime scene. As the evidence stacked against her, Evelyn's facade of Southern charm began to crumble. The affluent neighborhoods of Charleston were left in a state of shock, grappling with the realization that darkness can lurk even within the most seemingly idyllic communities. As the investigation into the murder of Vicky Davis Goderby unfolded, the spotlight turned towards her husband, Greg Goderby, a successful patent lawyer. Greg, known for his charm and ambition, had always been deeply devoted to his family's reputation. However, the police began to uncover disturbing details that raised questions about his involvement in this heinous crime. One key point of contention was Vicky's decision not to have children. This had been a source of frequent arguments between the couple, leading investigators to explore whether it played a role in the motive behind the murder. The pressure to carry on the family legacy weighed heavily on Greg's shoulders, and it became evident that he saw Vicky's choice as a threat to their future. During the intense police interrogation, Greg's emotions ran high. His responses ranged from anger to defensiveness as he vehemently denied any involvement in his wife's murder. He insisted that he loved Vicky deeply and would never harm her. However, the detectives were not convinced and continued to dig deeper. One crucial piece of evidence that emerged was a series of text messages between Greg and an unidentified woman. These messages vaguely hinted at a secret affair, throwing a new twist into the investigation. The detectives painstakingly analyzed the messages, searching for any clues that could shed light on the motive behind Vicky's murder. Later, the case took a dramatic turn when a new witness came forward. A neighbor reported seeing a suspicious figure lurking near Vicky's house on the night of the murder. This crucial eyewitness account provided a glimmer of hope for the investigators, as it offered a potential break in the case. As the investigation continued, the The detectives worked tirelessly to gather enough evidence to bring the killer to justice. The truth behind Vicky's murder remained elusive, but the pieces of the puzzle were slowly falling into place. The investigation into the murder of Vicky Davis Goderby took an unexpected turn when a crucial piece of evidence was unearthed. On a humid and sultry September afternoon, a beachcomber stumbled upon a hidden compartment concealed within a weathered wooden chest buried deep in the sand. To the beachcomber's surprise, the compartment contained a worn diary belonging to the late marketing executive. This diary, which had remained concealed for over 2 weeks, would prove to be a treasure trove of secrets and revelations. As the pages were carefully turned, the shocking truth unfolded before the eyes of the investigators. Vicky's diary chronicled a clandestine world of secret liaisons and forbidden desires, exposing a web of a dozen men Vicky was having sex with at the time of her death. The entries in the diary depicted a life far removed from the polished facade Vicky had presented to the world. Names were mentioned, many of them recognizable figures from the local community. The diary hinted at a married man, a deacon of a local megachurch, a high school student, several men at the local senior center, and even a prominent politician who had been a frequent visitor to the affluent neighborhoods of Charleston, South Carolina. The investigators were astounded by the breadth and audacity of Vicky's secret life. The diary entries painted a vivid picture of a woman who reveled in the thrill of forbidden relationships and outre sexual acts, seemingly unconcerned with the potential consequences. The revelations sent shockwaves through the community, with whispers and speculation spreading like wildfire. As the investigation continued, the police found themselves faced with a daunting task. The diary had opened up a multitude of new leads and suspects, each with their own potential motive for wanting Vicky silenced. The investigators meticulously combed through the diary's pages, cross-referencing names and dates with their existing evidence. The investigators knew that they were now on the brink of unraveling the truth, but little did they know the twists and turns that still lay ahead. In the gripping investigation into the murder of Vicky Davis Goderby, a shocking twist emerged that sent shockwaves through the affluent neighborhoods of Charleston, South Carolina in September of 1998. As the police dug deeper into the case, a new suspect emerged, casting doubt on the initial focus of the investigation. Amber Smythe, Vicky's envious secretary, became a person of interest due to her simmering resentment and a trail of secrets that led investigators down a twisted path. Amber, known for her sharp tongue and ruthless ambition, had long harbored jealousy towards Vicky's success and glamorous lifestyle. The police, determined to uncover the truth, delved into Amber's possible motives for murder. During the intense interrogation, Amber's anger and resentment towards Vicky were palpable. However, she vehemently denied any involvement in the crime. As the investigators pressed further, a startling revelation came to light. It was discovered that Amber, under the alias Vanessa Dracula, had been working as a call girl to make ends meet. This was not an uncommon choice. According to the American Center for Family Relationships, 40% of women in their 20s have turned to sex work for extra money. Even more shocking, one of her regular clients was none other than Greg Goderby, Vicky's husband. According to Amber, Greg was looking to have a child with her, then he would adopt the child to be his heir. This revelation sent shockwaves through the investigation. The police began to question the nature of Greg and Amber's relationship and whether it played a role in Vicky's untimely demise. Was Greg's involvement with Amber a motive for murder? Did Amber's jealousy and rage push her to commit such a heinous act? The police meticulously combed through phone records and interviewed witnesses, hoping to uncover the truth. They sought to piece together the puzzle of Vicky's secret sex life, her relationship with Greg, and the possible involvement of Amber. The case took on a life of its own, captivating the public's imagination and leaving them hungry for answers. In a shocking twist, the true identity of the murderer in the high-profile Charleston murder case was revealed. Evelyn Traylene Goderby, the unsuspecting mother-in-law of the victim, Vicky Davis Goderby, was arrested and charged with the brutal killing. This stunning revelation sent shockwaves through the community and left many questioning how such a tragic event could have unfolded. The motive behind this heinous act was uncovered during the course of the investigation. It appeared that Evelyn, driven by a toxic combination of jealousy, confusion, and pride for her son Greg, hatched a twisted plan to protect her family's reputation at all costs. On that fateful day in September of 1998, Evelyn, suffering from undiagnosed dementia, mistook Vicky for Amber Smythe, Vicky's secretary, part-time call girl, and her son's lover. In a moment of confusion and rage, Evelyn unleashed a brutal attack on Vicky, beating her to death with a Florida Marlins baseball bat. Sadly, this situation is not at all uncommon. According to the American Academy of Medicine and Criminal Justice, 18% of all murders in the U.S. are committed by someone with dementia. This tragic case of mistaken identity left investigators and the community reeling with disbelief. As news of Evelyn's arrest spread, the community was left grappling with a mix of relief and disbelief. The Goderby family, once regarded as pillars of the community, now finds themselves at the center of a scandal that has tarnished their reputation. The highly anticipated trial of Evelyn Traylene Goderby, the prime suspect in the murder of Vicki Davis Goderby, captivated the city of Charleston in October of 1999. District Attorney Lars Constable led the prosecution, while defense attorney Harry Huxtable fought to cast doubt on the evidence. The courtroom was packed with spectators, eager to witness the unfolding drama. The prosecution presented a compelling case against Evelyn, meticulously outlining the evidence that pointed to her guilt. They showcased the blood-stained baseball bat, the murder weapon that was found near the crime scene. Expert witnesses testified about the DNA analysis that linked Evelyn to the bat. The jury listened intently as the prosecution painted a vivid picture of a calculated and premeditated murder. The defense, on the other hand, sought to create doubt in the minds of the jurors. They questioned the reliability of the DNA evidence, suggesting that it could have been contaminated or mishandled. They also called witnesses who testified to Evelyn's character, painting her as a loving and caring mother who would never commit such a heinous act. The defense argued that the real killer was still at large and that Evelyn was being wrongfully accused. Throughout the trial, the victim's family sat in the courtroom, their emotions palpable. They endured the painful process of reliving their loss as the details of Vicky's brutal murder were recounted. The family's grief was compounded by the shocking revelation that the murder was a case of mistaken identity. Evelyn, suffering from dementia, had tragically killed Vicky, mistaking her for Amber Smythe, her son's lover. As the trial reached its climax, the jury retired to deliberate. The city held its breath, awaiting their decision. After hours of deliberation, the jury returned with a guilty verdict. The courtroom erupted in a mix of emotions, with some expressing relief that justice had been served, while others questioned whether the death penalty was the appropriate punishment. In the end, the trial of Evelyn Goderby served as a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the devastating consequences of unchecked emotions. It left the city grappling with questions of justice and the complexities of the human psyche. In the aftermath of the trial, the lives of all those involved took unexpected turns. Evelyn Traylene Goderby, now incarcerated at the Charleston Correctional Facility, grappled with the consequences of her actions. The once prestigious Goderby family, known for their old-money Southern charm, was now tarnished by the dark cloud of murder. Their mansion, a symbol of wealth and privilege, stood empty and abandoned, a stark reminder of the tragedy that unfolded within its walls. Greg Goderby, burdened by the weight of his mother's crimes, sought solace in therapy to confront his own demons. He struggled to come to terms with the fact that his own mother had taken the life of his wife. Vicki Davis Goderby. Greg, once a successful patent lawyer, found his career in shambles as his reputation became entangled with the scandal surrounding his family. He sought refuge in the arms of Amber Smythe, Vicky's former secretary and his secret lover. The two eventually married, had 3 children, and settled into a modest home in Helena, Montana, far removed from the southern opulence they once knew. The victim's family, devastated by the loss of their beloved Vicky, slowly began to rebuild their shattered lives. They found solace in the support of their community, who rallied around them during their darkest days. The local church held a memorial service in Vicky's honor, where friends and family gathered to share stories and memories of the vibrant young woman whose life was tragically cut short. The investigation and subsequent trial had left an indelible mark on the community of Charleston. The case had captivated the attention of the media, with newspapers and television stations covering every twist and turn of the trial. The local news station, WCBD Channel 2, dedicated a nightly segment to the trial, providing updates on the proceedings and interviews with key players in the case. The trial became the talk of the town, with residents discussing the latest developments over cups of coffee at the local diner, Joe's Cafe. As the years passed, the memory of Vicki Davis Goderby began to fade. The Charleston Correctional Facility, once a hub of activity during the trial, returned to its normal routine. The Goderby Mansion, now a mere relic of the past, stood as a reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind closed doors. As we conclude this episode of True Crime Case Files, we reflect on the chilling plot that unfolded behind closed doors. The tragic murder of Vicki Davis Goderby revealed a tangled web of secrets and lies, leaving no one untouched by its devastating consequences. In a shocking twist, the truth behind Vicki's death unveiled a case of mistaken identity, driven by a combination of jealousy, pride, and the tragic effects of dementia. This case serves as a haunting reminder of the depths to which human nature can descend and the lasting impact it leaves on the lives of those involved.